I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
A good-sized man, or something looks like a man.
Okay. You've had problems in the neighborhood before?
Yeah, my dog was killed here just recently. I don't know what it was.
Welcome to Sasquatch Hypotheses.
Jesus Christ, you better...
Sure.
Dia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
Son of a bitch is about 6'9".
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
And the guy is on foot.
I don't know what... It's a big, real big person.
But it is a person.
Yeah, I'd say it was a person, somebody really big. But he's all in black.
Is he a black male or a white male? Did you actually see whether, or was he just wearing black?
He's all black and he's big. He is big.
Good evening, folks. Today we're going to do a little bit different show since my internet provider decided to mess with my internet speeds again just before the show started. So what we've done is went into Discord and had a little bit of a campfire chat with Carl Goutreau. I don't know if I got his name right. Sorry, Carl. And a few other people in Discord. We talked about what appears to be a habituation situation going on with him at his home in the middle of a subdivision, which is a little unique. And talked to some other people about some various Sasquatch behavior and that kind of thing in Louisiana and various other things. So that is what's going to be happening. This is a little bit of a long show. It ran about 3 hours. So get some coffee if you like to listen to a long show while you go to sleep or whatever. Here you go. This is the one for you. So there you have it. And here we go on with the show.
Pretty much the same thing. I mean, we had an issue with the camera, so we hadn't really been recording, but we're going to probably start maybe tonight. But the same thing. I mean, I was on my computer last night, and I heard a bang. Something hit the roof, and you know, I don't know if you can ever get used to it, but I guess I'm used to it by now. You know.
Right. Have you talked to any of the neighbors to see if any of them are having similar situations?
Yes, I talked to 2 of them, and one of them, you know, they say they hear the same things, but they've never had anything like what's going on at my house. But then my house is the easiest access, you know, to my backyard from my neighbor's backyard, because they're an elderly couple, and his wife is, you know, she's not in good health, and they're retired school teachers. And I mean, like, man, we never see these people. They never turn on their lights. I mean, you almost swear nobody lived there.
So
real nice people, but I mean, they just not active, or, you know, they never get out. And
well, as I recall from the Bigfoot Odyssey video, your house really, what do you mean by it's the easiest access? Because as I recall, you're kind of in the middle of the neighborhood.
Yeah, well, see, my neighbor behind me, he doesn't his backyard is not closed off. So you can just walk into his backyard on either side. And all the other houses have gates, you know, kind of like what I do on each side. But his house, anybody could just walk right, you know, in his backyard, and he'd probably never know it.
Yeah.
Which I guess he doesn't, because what's going on. I want to tell him, you know, but then again, I don't want to. The old man's, you know, he's up there. He's up in his 70s. I don't want to give him a heart attack, you know. I mean,
well, What is your theory on why they're singling your house out? Because that's what it sounds like you're saying.
Yeah, I think because the easy access, and I think because of the dog food, and other than that, I don't think we're the draw. You know, everybody says, I think they're throwing rocks, you know, so you'll come out, and that may be true, but I think they're more attached to my dogs for some reason. If you go on my channel, I made a channel. It's just Carl Gotro, my name on YouTube. You can watch some of these videos and just watch how my dogs react to them.
But as I understand, your yard where the dogs are is completely fenced in. There's no access. So what do you mean by easy access?
Well, I mean, I think either they're jumping behind the shed, which I had Kerry didn't get when he did the interview. So I think it was 2 boards behind my shed that are like, you know, maybe 2 or 3 foot down from the top, just completely snapped off. And if anything, I think it would be jumping over the fence behind my shed where we couldn't see him, and just coming around, or climbing up on the tree and just coming into my yard.
Have you checked the top of the fence to see? Because, I mean, I would assume a Bigfoot, like a human, we can just, like, grab a fence and hurl ourselves over a fence, depending on how tall it is.
I've got some pictures of some weird-looking scratches on my fence close to where the boards are broke. And, you know, we do have a little bush in that corner, and I couldn't tell if it was the bush rubbing up against the fence, or it almost looks like claw marks.
And the claw marks would be where? At the top, like?
Yeah, almost on the top, you know, from maybe 4 foot up to the top, to the top of the fence. So, I mean,
are they mainly on the outside, or are they mainly on the outside or inside, or both, or what?
It's on the outside. I mean, on the inside of my fence, because my boards face inside. The skeleton of the fence is on the outside of my yard. Right. So when you look at my fence, all you see is the clean boards. You don't see any 2x4s or 4x6s or anything like that.
Okay. And so the scratches you're talking about are on the inside, on the clean side.
Yeah.
And they're
on
how
the
high?
inside, right next to the shed.
They're 4 feet off the ground?
I'd say maybe about 5.5 foot off the ground, because my fence, it's a 6 foot. The boards are 6 foot, but it's about 2 inches off the ground, so it's about maybe 6'2".
Yeah.
You know, if you took a tape measure from the ground to the top of the fence.
Right. And these scratches, do they go up and down?
They're kind of almost. I'd almost have to send a picture to you, because it almost looks like a swiping, like somebody would take their nails and start towards the top and just kind of like swipe down towards the middle of the boards. It's kind of weird looking.
So it's at an arc. It's like an arc. It's not a straight line.
Yeah, it's almost like at an arc.
And that, I mean, if your dogs are on their hind legs scratching at the fence, is that about where they would be?
My big dog probably could reach that high, but my little smaller dog, Della, no, she couldn't reach that high on her hind legs. She's only 8 months old. But my big dog, my big German Shepherd, she's mixed with a Great Pyrenees, so she's huge.
Yeah.
She probably could, just put her paws over on the top of the fence, I don't know
all the
why
way up,
they would
6
be
foot?
scratching the fence right there.
She could actually hit the top of the 6'2" if she was on her hind legs?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah, I've never seen her do it, but I mean, she's pretty big. I mean, when she stands up on her hind legs, I'm 5'11", I mean, her head is a good 3 inches above my head.
Really? Wow, she's a big dog.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, go look at the video. I mean, the one with the tree knock especially, that's the weirdest one of all.
This is the Odyssey video or something on your channel?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's on my channel, too. He just used
the problem with
my videos.
The problem is that audio isn't real clear.
No.
He says it's a tree knock, but I don't hear a tree knock. I hear a noise, and that's about it. You know,
well,
you have to take his word for it.
It's at the very, very beginning of the video. Because, man, some of these videos are like 8 hours long. And there's still a lot of them we haven't even looked at yet.
Right.
You know, because they're just so long. And it's done with a nanny cam. Haven't really went and bought a good camera.
Which is terrible quality to begin with, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's basically to watch a baby, you know, in a crib.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as far as audio goes, I can suggest something for you for picking up audio. It picks up true audio all the way down to, it'll even pick up ultrasound or infrasound rather.
Mm-hmm. What kind of recorder is that?
Yeah, hold on a second. I got one. I got to read it because I never remember the name of it. It's a Tascam, Tascam.
Tascam?
Yeah, Tascam is the name of the people who make it, and it's a DR44WL.
Tascam. And what's the model number?
DR44.
44R.
W. No, DR44WL.
WL.
And this goes all the way down to 5 hertz, so it picks up infrasound as well.
Okay.
They use these so you can they use these things to make movies and stuff, so they're extremely high quality. And this will give you a true audio, you know. And like I have the headphones I wear are a monitor or a monitor version of the headphones. They're not altered at all, because most headphones they'll amp up the bass or something so that when you're listening to music it sounds better, that kind of thing. This is a true reference headphones, so what I hear is exactly what was recorded. I'd recommend you get something like that too. Anyway, so what I was going to say is theoretically, your dog, if your dog was up there, you know, knowing what the scratches look like, is there any way that that the directionality of those scratches could have been your dog scratching at the fence for whatever reason, or is it just not fit?
I mean, it's possible. It's possible. It's high up, but the kind of swirling motion to it. If I would think if a dog would be scratching on the fence, it'd almost be straight up and down.
Right.
You know, this almost has like a swoosh to it. Do you have that picture?
Do I have?
Try to get my wife to email it to you if.
Okay, sure. You have my email?
I don't think so. I think I had
Sasquatch Hypotheses at gmail.com.
Okay, at gmail.com.
And that's ES, not IS.
You don't have the picture? Okay, she doesn't have the picture.
I'll
send it to you, though.
Sure.
I'll send it to you, and I have a bunch of pictures just of, you know, kind of weird stuff and the footprint, and which, I mean, you can see that on the Bigfoot Odyssey. On the
concrete?
Yeah, the one on the concrete.
Yeah. Now, what exactly? I'm not really following the theory on that. What is the reason why you think it left a footprint? I guess it lasts for days.
Carrie Arnold thinks that they wanted me to see that footprint. Like it was done for a reason. Now, what the reason is, I have no idea. I mean, you know, who knows? But then he told me, he said, well, there's got to be other footprints. You just haven't seen them.
Right.
So I started to look, and that's when I found like the other 4 in my yard. But I don't know, you know, where the other ones would have went, or and it had rained like the night before that we had found that footprint. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I mean, from what everybody says, his skin is real oily. And I don't know if you saw the little piece of vine that I found that was propped up against the tree.
Yeah.
But that has almost what looks like a greasy handprint on it.
Yeah, I remember Carrie talking about that.
Yeah. So it looks like the same type of greasy, but it's a handprint.
In this location where this piece of vine was found, that's not, let's say something couldn't chuck it over the fence, it would have had to have been placed there?
They could have probably, because the fence is maybe, I mean, the tree is maybe about 3 foot from the fence. So, I mean, it's possible they could have, you know, threw it there.
And it just bounced and it happened to land the way it did, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
And then, you know, even when I saw it, I didn't even really think anything of it, you know, because I thought it was just maybe something the dogs, because when a branch falls off the tree, man, they grab it, they fight for it because they want to chew it, but this thing they wouldn't even go around.
Right. Oh, they didn't want that. Even if you tried to play with them, they didn't want anything to do with it.
Well, I didn't even really try because I mean I found it. I was walking out to my little outdoor kitchen in the back one morning, and to let them out because that's where we keeping them in their kennels. And I just saw it a little weird. I said, what the hell is that? I just went over and picked it up, started looking at it. I was like, it looked like to me what had a handprint on it. And took pictures of it, showed it to Carrie, you know, and it like I said, it almost looks like that greasy greasy footprint, but it's a handprint. Yeah.
Now, so a lot of times video and audio, especially consumer grade, does not do justice to what you're trying to, as you know. I mean, you go and you see a footprint in the leaves or whatever, and you go to take a picture of it, and you look at the picture, you go, well, you can't even see the thing.
Right.
But in person, you can see it. So when Carrie was showing that handprint on that piece of stick, I mean, I could kind of sort of see what he was talking about, but I'm asking you because you've seen it in person. And I'm assuming you've actually watched the video. So is there, like when you're looking at it in person, is it like just obvious it's there, but then when you look at the video, it's very hard to determine?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's, whenever you look at it, you have it in your hand, you can definitely see it. I'll try to get some better pictures of it too and send it to you.
Well, do you have a if you're going to buy, and I don't know that you would, it depends on what you're planning to do. If you're going to get a camera to record this kind of stuff, I would recommend getting like a Canon or a Nikon that will do RAW format, because you don't want to do JPEG. JPEG compresses the image, so things like the subtle difference between the greasy print and the regular texture of the branch will get obliterated by the compression of the JPEG when it makes the image. Okay. So if you get a raw image, what it does is it records all the data that lens picks up, and it stores it in a file. So that I used to be a photographer, and I always shot everything in RAW. I can go in there and tweak every little aspect of that image and pull detail out that you can't get in a JPEG image because it's been compressed away.
Yeah.
If you know anything about compression, that's how it works.
Well, that's exactly what happens with these videos.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like when I watch them on my computer, I mean, they're crystal clear. They, there's no distortion in the sound whatsoever. But when you put it on a phone, I guess it's so big, the phone's trying to compress it. You know, you start to see all this kind of blur, and you know.
Are you talking about your videos?
Yes.
Really? So do you have the originals?
Yes.
And you can hear better?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Because what he took, well, the tree knock one is original. But the one where you hear the growl and you hear the bang on top of my roof and then you see the eye shine,
yeah,
that's a copy. Because what happened was we'd film, then my wife would send it to me by email, and I would look at it on my computer with my good headphones on, my wireless headphones.
Right.
And for some reason, she sent me about maybe 10 videos, and it just stopped. She couldn't send videos anymore. So we basically had to make copies of the original video, which is really, really clear off of her phone. But we got with the what is it, Hubble app, the people where this stuff is stored, and tried to work with them, tried to get them to fix it, where we could get the videos, the original videos, but we still haven't.
What is a Hubble?
Been able to release.
What is this Hubble thing you're talking about?
It's the camera is actually, what do you call it? It's a Motorola camera, a nanny cam.
Yeah.
But
is it a cloud setup?
Record.
It's a cloud?
What's that?
Is it in the cloud? Is that what you're saying? Like whatever your nanny cam records, it goes out onto the internet to a server?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's called the Hubble app.
All right.
That you have to install on your phone. And, like I said, at first it worked perfect. I mean, we would record, she'd send it to me, and then it just stopped. And now we can't get the original recordings off of that app. She can't email them to me.
Right.
So that's why I kind of want to. Now, this camera you're talking about, could I just put in my backyard and record for 8 hours and just look at it through my computer?
Well, if you want something like that, I can send you a recommendation as to what kind of cameras you might want to use to do that. But the camera I'm talking about is like a camera that you would go and take the footprint pictures with, like a handheld, camera.
Well, you see, I have an old 35 millimeter Minolta camera. That's from the 90s.
Is it digital
pictures?
Digital or film?
It's film.
Okay. You could do that.
But I didn't even think about that.
Are you proficient? Are you proficient with it, or like do you know how to adjust your aperture and all that stuff?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't used it in years, because it's kind of like a dying art, with all the digital stuff. But hell, I was trying to find a battery for it the other day, and I think the only place I could find one was Batteries Plus or something like that, and had a hard time
What's
finding
the battery
for it.
What's the battery for?
For the camera, for my SLR camera.
Yeah, I've only used DSLR, but what is the battery for as far as a film camera? What does that do?
That's what operates the camera.
So it does auto winding or something?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm
Batteries
looking at it
Plus.
right now.
Batteries Plus. You getting that? Is that through Amazon? You found that or something? Because I think I got a battery from them.
They actually have a store here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a Minolta Maxim 5000i. It's autofocus. It has a little infrared light on it.
Autofocus. Yeah, you need a battery for that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me see.
But what I really want is something like I could set on top of the dog kennel, kind of like what I'm doing now with the nanny cam,
right?
And maybe record 8 hours and just be able to just plug it up to my computer and just watch it and just save it, instead of going through all this Hubble app and all this crap, and then you can't get the the actual recording.
Yeah, I know something that you could use. It's basically
Okay.
security cameras, and it has a software that will record it. You know, anytime there's motion, it'll record the motion. But when there's nothing, it records nothing. That way, you're not wasting.
Okay.
You know.
I tell you what, though, with this little nanny cam, though, what I have got, I've been really impressed. You know, I mean, I know it's not the best quality, but I mean, damn, I've got some pretty good stuff off that damn nanny cam.
Yeah, well, technology's gotten to the point where even cheap technology does a pretty good job these days. But you know,
Right.
high-end technology does even better. You know, than it ever has. You know, it's relative. You know, everything's going up and getting better. You know.
Mhm. Yeah, I just hadn't really, man. We've been really busy at work, and I just haven't really, you know. But email me that information. My email. I don't know if you have anything to write with.
No. Hey, Dee Dee, can you take this down for me?
It's easy. It's my name, Carl Gotro at yahoo.com.
Did you get that, honey?
No lowercase.
Yeah, I have it.
just-
I have it, Carl, because I emailed you
Okay.
earlier.
Okay.
All right. I didn't even know you were there, Dee. I thought you stepped out.
No, there's about, I don't know, 6 or 7. How many people? 6 or 7 people waiting to talk to you right now, waiting for me to shut up.
Okay.
But why don't you go ahead and discuss, like, one thing I'm interested in is the rock throw or the concrete, whatever it was, you know, something threw and hit your house or your shed or something.
What you talking about? The big one, the big piece, the biggest piece that they threw. That really got started when we put up the camera, the little nanny cam,
Yeah.
and they just started throwing these little chunks of cement, and I don't know if they maybe just misjudged that big one, because that big one is about 4 pounds. It's
Really?
pretty heavy. I mean, there's no way, you know, from where that eye shine comes from, there's no way I or Carrie could have threw that piece of cement.
That was like 50
Over,
yards, right?
What's that?
Didn't Carrie determine that was about 50 yards?
Yeah, it's about 50 yards.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a long way to throw 5 pounds.
I mean, if I guess he could have threw it underhanded, but I mean, I'm thinking if you're throwing something that heavy, you have to have a rotator cuff. Because I played baseball all my life, and like I said in the film, I was a pitcher.
Yeah.
And I know, well, of course, I'm 54 years old right now, but maybe when I was 20 years old, maybe I could have got it close, but I don't even know if I could have hit the house, because that's a pretty good toss. 4-pound piece of cement.
Yeah. So what was it? What you think that it was? It threw it at the nanny cam?
To be honest, I'm not sure. That may be the case, because that's the first night that we had ever shot from, like, under my patio going towards the tree, like where the fence area, where we think that they're coming to. And I don't know if, you know, they were trying to see if the dogs were out, or because once we found out what was exactly going on, we pick up our dogs at night, you know, because I don't want one of them to hurt one of them or kill them or whatever, you know. But that's the first night we ever shot towards that tree in that fence.
Now this nanny cam is it has infrared. It sees in the dark. It had a little power light that was a little green light that just lights up when the camera comes on, that Carrie never even thought about, and I never thought about, because I know nothing about these things. But his opinion was they saw that I moved the camera, and it just kind of, you know, I guess kind of pissed them off. Yeah. Well, I don't see. Everybody has these theories about them and cameras. I don't think they know what the heck a camera is. However, if they saw, like, the light and it got moved, I could see them tossing something at the light because they want to see if it's going to move. You know, like they don't know what it is. All they know is there's something there. So they're going to chuck something at it to see what it does. Is it going to react to the rock? Is it going to move out of the way? Is it going to, you know, that's what I would think more so than they know it's a camera, you know, but I could be wrong. Maybe they do. Maybe they're rocket scientists and they know what a camera is, but I kind of doubt that, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's just they see something new and they're testing it to see if it's going to move because they don't know what it is. It's freaking them out, you know, that kind of thing.
Exactly, and they don't like change.
Right.
They're very anal. I mean, they must have ADD or something because I mean, you change something and they don't like it.
And they seem to have photographic memories because they seem to remember the slightest little change in the environment.
Exactly. That's everybody has told me that I've talked to that you move this. Like they pile up these little sticks, and if you move one just an inch, they know, and they'll come back and they will redo it. And
or they'll let you know in some way that they know that you did that. There's they'll do something. Yeah, that's what makes me think that they have photographic memories.
They must, or they're just that damn intelligent. I would love to test the IQ of one of these things. Because I'm not, a lot of people think there's, some type of ape. I don't think so. These things are too damn smart.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm in that same camp. I think they're not just a dumb animal. They're the next. No. They're an up and coming sentient species, I think.
Did you see that picture that I took?
The picture.
Yeah.
No. Was it on?
I think Carrie had showed it on the documentary we did, but I have a really good, clear picture of it.
Is that the one where it's basically the shadow behind the post or something?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's pareidolia from what I saw.
From what it could be, but most of those pictures I've seen have some kind of bushes or tree behind it, but there's not. And then I took a series of 4 pictures. All right. When I walked out there. Snapped the one. The first one had them. The second one, I didn't move at all. Second one, they're not there. The third one, they're not there.
Well, here's the thing. Was it a digital camera?
No, it was just my cell phone.
Well, it's a digital camera. The thing about it, especially depending on the chip that's used, you have a CMOS chip or a CCD chip. They'll put noise in the picture just because they can't figure out what they're looking at. The camera tries to determine, and then you have JPEG compression on top of that. So you can have things that are pixelation, that kind of thing, in a black area or in a light area, and that kind of thing. And I think that's what I saw. It looked like that's what it was. It was basically in film terms, it's film noise is what we would have called it back, film terms.
Right.
It's kind of like film noise, except it can be completely random. It can be there and then not there. It can come and go. It can move, because it's the CCD chip and the JPEG compression combined together, trying to make sense of where there's too little data to make a firm picture, if that makes sense. So when I looked at that picture and y'all were like, "Oh, there's a face there." When I looked around, I actually counted like 7 faces, 7 of something that you could consider a face. So I said, because I could not determine which one you were talking about. I said, well, I can see what looks like 7 sets of eyes with mouths and the whole 9 yards. But I knew what I was looking at was just digital film noise, if you want to put it that way. So I don't know exactly what y'all were pointing out or what you saw in there. And I mean, I stopped it and looked at it for quite a while, trying to see if maybe I'm jumping to conclusions, to see if there really was something. I couldn't see anything. But, first of all, you have the compressed version that you're looking at. And then Kerry films it or adds it to his video. And then he uploads it to YouTube. When YouTube gets it, they further compress it again. So the video that I looked at had been compressed at least twice, which would increase the problem of noise. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I did like a little deal on it on my channel because somebody suggested, hey, why don't you go through it and run it through some filters and see what it does to it, and I did, and it does clean it up a little bit, but I mean,
Yeah, I'll have to look at that.
You-
I'll look at your channel and see if maybe
Yeah.
that's a little clearer to me.
and somebody even suggested that they see an iris in the eye.
Yeah, and this is you did this from the original video, correct? You didn't take the YouTube version and try to enhance that, right? You took the original video, correct?
Yes, this is the original picture.
Okay, I'll have to look at that and see what it looks like. So in addition to you've had the concrete thrown at the nanny cam, basically, the dog food missing. The dog food was in the yard, correct?
Well, it was underneath. It was underneath my patio, but the container it's in, there's like a little latch that you have to click it open and open up the top. So, I mean, it just doesn't. You just can't go up to it and open up the top. You would have to, put your hand underneath there, and it has a little latch, and it kind of snaps, and then you open it up.
Right. And you had how much dog food? I remember something like the whole thing went gone in like 3 days or something.
Oh, yeah, we went through. That's when we started noticing it when in June. We had bought on that Saturday. We had bought a 50-pound bag of dog food. We filled it up. I think it was Saturday when we bought it. And when I came in Tuesday night, went to feed the dogs, and it was maybe half a scoop, maybe a scoop left in it. So when I asked my wife, I said, "Where's the other bag of dog food?" She said, "Well, I put it in there 2 days ago." Like, well, okay. I didn't really think anything of it,
But there's you didn't notice the lid was open every time you went out there.
No.
It looked like something was opening it and closing it again, right?
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's interesting. And this is under your. What did you say? Under your deck?
Yeah, underneath my patio.
And this is in the completely enclosed yard.
Yes. Yes. That's why I said. I mean, these things are smart, man. I mean, like I said, I would like to know the IQ of one of them because I mean, they're like you said, they might be borderline genius.
Well, maybe idiot savant would be better, but
maybe you ever heard that guy Christopher Noel?
That name's familiar, but I can't place it.
He talks a lot about autism,
right?
In these things, he doesn't think they're autistic. They just have a lot of traits that are familiar with autism.
Yeah, I would agree. Because I've been having the same thoughts myself, is that in many ways they act like they have some kind of autism.
Well, and I have a little cousin who's autistic. I mean, he's older now, but when he was a kid, I mean, he would line his little cars and stuff up. I mean, if you walk by and you mess with it, he would throw a hissy fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he would get mad. I mean, really mad. His mom had to calm him down, and it's just. It's not his fault, I mean, it's just that's the way they are. But I mean, his thing was dinosaurs. You know how they usually launch onto something like music or math, or
right.
His thing was dinosaurs.
Right.
I mean, he could tell you anything you wanted to know about dinosaurs.
That's interesting. But
Yeah.
I was gonna say, just like Rain Man, I mean, you could drop the scene where they drop the matches or something on the floor, and he counts them and instantly knows how many are there and that kind of thing.
Right.
That's like Bigfoot. I said they have a photographic memory. Well, that would fit right in with an autistic symptom or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
They just know their environment.
I've listened to a couple of his, his videos, and I mean, a lot of the stuff he talks about is stuff that we're seeing. I mean, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I think he's got it pretty much nailed.
Idiot savant. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But he says that he doesn't. You really think that they have it? They just have the all the symptoms. Which I don't know how you can have all the symptoms of something without having it, but
Well, it's possible that's, and I'm just spitballing here. It's possible that that is a stage of developing an intellect, is that you go through, and like the species would go through a stage of being idiot, savant, or autistic, and then some kinds of consciousness comes into play, later on in development, which starts to add more logic to that, if that makes any sense, so that we can utilize that idiot savant. We can utilize that that ability. Whereas, like an autistic person or an idiot savant can't. They're stuck at that stage where that's as good as it gets for them.
Right.
But we're beyond there. We actually utilize that ability.
And I think like I told you the other night, we weren't recording. The dogs were in, but I still think they come around because it's like a routine for them. It's almost like they have to do it, kind of like a person with ADD,
Right. Well, if that's the case, they probably would have reacted to you bringing your dogs in. They probably would have been, well, they come out there, they're used to the dogs being there, and now they're not there. So I would think that there would have been some kind of reaction to that. Like, was there an increase in rocks being thrown at your house or anything like that?
I mean, when we put the camera up, but like I said, we hadn't been filming the last, I don't know, it's been probably about a good week since we actually filmed anything. But, like I was in my, my bedroom doing some stuff on the computer the other night, and I heard something hit the top, hit the roof, and I looked outside my window because I'm not going out there. I'm gonna tell you that now. Before this, 3 months ago, if you would have asked me, if I want to see one, I'd probably tell you, yeah. But I'm at the point where I really don't have to see it,
Right.
Because just some of the stories you hear, and they kind of get pissed off sometimes, and like Carrie's encounter, I mean.
Yeah.
Or what's the woolly guy from Louisiana that almost had the identical same type of encounter that Carrie had, except it was two of them.
I've not heard that one.
You didn't hear that, Mike?
I don't think so.
His name is Mike Woolley.
Have we got that one?
Yeah, his name is Mike Woolley. He was a hunter.
That's it.
Wait a minute, Dee Dee, isn't that somebody you talked to or something? Because I think you brought that up to me once, didn't you?
Well, I just think I told you about his encounter, but he was in a tree stand hunting.
Yeah. Is that the one where
And
the
they found
Bigfoot touched the arrowhead or something like that?
No, I don't. No, that's not the same one.
Oh, okay.
But
No.
There was more than one. Mike Woolley had a really scary encounter.
Yeah, it was almost the same type of encounter like what Carrie had, except worse. Like, these things trailed him all the way to his truck, and he didn't know it at the time. He knew one was on one side of this road, but he said when he actually got in his truck and took off, he looked in his rearview mirror, and they had two of them standing there looking at each other.
Yeah, I've heard that. I think that was on Sasquatch Chronicles.
Okay.
I think. But yeah, I know of that encounter. But Dee Dee, what I was saying is, weren't we trying to get a hold of him or something? Or you had his information in Facebook? I forget what it was.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought.
He's from Louisiana, too.
Is he? Well, we got to get all these Louisiana people in because I'm going to be living there soon. I gotta.
Really?
Yeah. So as far as the dog food thing, were the dogs out there when the dog food was going missing? Or was there a period of time when they weren't out there, so the Bigfoot had an opportunity to get to it?
Well, the way that I'll tell it in the documentary, but I'll tell it to you again. The way this got started was we had our little small German Shepherd Spade. She stayed in the house for like 10 days. Okay, so Tori, which is the big one, was outside. She was sleeping outside. And one night, I just noticed that, she wasn't active. She wasn't. We couldn't hear her, walking around or whatever. And I asked my wife. I said, "Did you pick her up? Did you put her in the kennel?" She said, "No. Why?" I said, "Well, don't you find she's kind of quiet?" she said, yeah, now that you mention that, yeah, she is real quiet. So, well, let me go check on her. So we have French doors in our kitchen facing outside. So I just went and I looked. I peeked opened the door, the curtain, and she's in her kennel. She's just laying, but it's almost like she was pouting or moping. And I told Rachel that. I said, when Rachel came up with, well, maybe she's missing Bella. Because Bella had been out there. Now, Bella's been in the house for 10 days. And she was acting like that all day, Rachel said, because Rachel works from home. So, really didn't think anything of it, that she was missing, like it's kind of like her little baby, So that Monday, we got her stitches out. Rachel brought her to the doctor. She got her stitches out. She was able to go back in the backyard. And that's the night I came home, went fed him, started throwing the rope with him. And that's the night I actually saw the footprint on the cement.
Okay,
And
so
then
they started when there was only one dog out there?
Yes. It was only the big dog, my big dog, Tori.
And so she could be in the cage because the thing came in the yard and it freaked her out a little bit. Do you think that she
Maybe
would have
so.
went crazy and barked or anything like that, or is she?
Oh yeah, on that tree knock video, I mean, you and Carrie said they could be doing something to the dogs. What was that, infrasound or whatever you talking about? But then I have videos where she's laying on that little sidewalk and she's watching that fence the whole time.
Yeah.
And every once in a while you'll hear a little rustle or something, and she'll take off of that fence and she'll start barking. And then she kind of chills out for a while and she'll come right back to that spot where she was laying, and she watches that section of that fence the whole time. Almost like she's just trained on that one spot, kind of like in a trance.
Yeah, I think
I got some strange videos. I mean, I got videos of her doing that, and the other little Bella laying on the concrete, and you hear what sounds like rocks being thrown, hitting the concrete, and you can see their heads just turning and kind of looking like, what the hell is that? I mean, where's this coming from?
Right.
And it's clacks. It's the only way I can explain it is it's clacks. Like if you would take two rocks, or take a rock and throw it on the ground, or take two rocks and clack it together. Now, somebody said that they could be doing that with their teeth. But I don't know, because the way it looks on the video, it looks like the dogs are reacting like something's hitting the concrete, and they're turning to see, well, what is this?
Yeah.
I mean, where's this coming from?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea for you to keep your dogs in when they're most susceptible. Yeah, they're most.
And they could be, like I said on that little documentary, they could be bribing them. They could be bringing things from the woods, the coulee, feeding them. Who knows? I
don't think so. It sounds to me like your dog, the big one, is afraid of them, but at the same time she's trying to serve her purpose as protector. So
right.
she's stuck in this situation where she wants to make sure she keeps them out, but at the same time, when they come in, she's so terrified that she has to retreat. She's in this
right.
weird situation in her mind, and that being the case, there could be one night where she's brave enough to go ahead and go at them when they come in the yard, and they'll kill her.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what we're scared of. That's why we pick them up. We don't even want to take a chance. I mean, they don't mind sleeping inside. So hey,
yeah,
nothing to lose.
Yeah, and that spot that she looks at, it's the same spot every time, right?
Oh yeah, it's the same spot. And one weird thing she started doing is like anytime me or my wife walk outside, just outside the door, she takes off to that spot and she'll look at us, turn around and look, start barking, and almost like she's, I guess, seeing if something's there or not. Kind of, I don't know if she's trying to give us a warning or, just protecting us, you know, I don't know what that is.
So it sounds to me like she's trying to make sure that you remain aware of that location as well, you know?
Right.
So she's going there to
that's
say, hey, pay attention to this spot right here when you're out here.
And that, to me, that's the scary part of the whole thing, that I've been in that backyard several times at night before this was going on, you know, just not paying attention with my back turned. So, I mean, if they wanted to hurt me, they had plenty of chances to do it.
Yeah. I'll be honest.
In my opinion.
I'll be honest with you. To me, it kind of sounds like it's juveniles. I don't think it's full grown. I think that it's one or more juveniles that are doing it, because I don't think a full-grown Sasquatch can get over that fence like that. I think they'd end up damaging it, you know. But a juvenile, they can climb in trees and all that stuff. I think that they're spry enough to get over that fence without messing it up. And it would also explain why the dog is brave yet afraid at the same time, because they're not quite big enough. But the problem with that is that juveniles grow up, you know.
Right. Yeah. Well, in going back to the footprints and the stick and the dead possums and all these animals we find, they won't even go around it.
How big was the footprint? Was it 17?
17, yeah, 17 inches.
Well, it wouldn't be a juvenile. That's got to be at least like an 8-foot Sasquatch.
Yeah, that's what Carrie's saying. But then Carrie says he thinks it's a skunk ape because of the shape of the foot, or he doesn't think it's the shape of the foot. He thinks it's actually how they walk.
Right. Yeah, I saw that.
Which makes sense, because if you're in a swampy terrain, I mean, you're going to have to walk different than you do if you're in North Dakota on, solid rock, hard ground.
Right.
And I'm guilty of that myself. I go in my backyard sometimes out to the range, I'm walking, and all of a sudden I hit a soft spot, water, and I change the way I walk.
Right.
Automatically.
Well, I got to defer to my Louisiana expert, honey. Is it Lafayette? Is that where you are?
Lafayette.
Yeah. Is that a real swampy area, hon?
Yeah, parts of it are just like here.
Well, I live a mile away from the biggest swamp in the United States. A lot of people don't know that.
The Everglades.
The Everglades is the biggest swamp. But
really?
It's actually the Chafalaya swamp right here.
I didn't know that. I always thought it was the Everglades.
No. It's actually right here.
So
Lafayette, a mile from my house.
Lafayette's 2 hours from New Orleans. Is that along the same latitude? Like you're still just as far south kind of thing?
Yeah, pretty much. We're about 30 miles, 25, 30 miles from the coast, from the Gulf.
So you're pretty close to Texas?
No, I'm about 3.5. I'm about 3.5 hours from Houston. About 2 hours, 2.5 hours from the state line.
Are you south of I-10?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. About 5 miles.
Yeah. Okay, swamp apes, huh? Because I know that they have what are more closely related or more closely described as Genasqua are out in eastern Texas and western Louisiana. But
what is the difference? I don't even know. I know there's several types, and they don't all look the same, but...
Well, they've been described different. I think that's just another Sasquatch, but there's I seem to be alone in that theory. They're just more vicious because they've been inbred a lot more. They're more isolated because they don't have the ability to travel as much. And I guess they do something to keep the mosquitoes off of them and stuff. They roll around, and that causes them to get calluses on their skin and stuff. Which makes them...
There's photos of them in that video I did, Carl, if you want to see them.
Yeah.
And it was on your channel too, Rick. The Genasqua.
Yeah, the Genasqua gang. Yeah, we got pictures of them.
Really? Well, I mean, that's the old-time remedy. If you want to stay from, keep from mosquitoes biting, you just rub mud on you.
Right. These supposedly roll around in the ground. to get it to do the same thing, and that causes them to get calluses on their skin because they do it so frequently. That's the theory, anyway. You know.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
they're more vicious, you know. But skunk
Right.
ape, I've never heard of skunk ape being that far west of Florida. Not to say that it couldn't be,
Right.
I guess. You know, I mean, they can be anywhere they want to as long as they can get there, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was.
But his theory makes
That
sense
was-
to me as far as them walking differently based on the terrain that they're used to. That makes sense.
Right. And he said that's the only place that he's ever seen, you know, and he describes it as it kind of has like a little S curve in it.
Right.
He said the only place he's seen those tracks is in Florida.
Florida and your place, those are the only two places he's ever seen those
That's
tracks?
the only two places he's ever seen the shape, you know, the shape of the foot. And he's like, he doesn't think it's the shape of the foot. He thinks it's how they walk.
Right.
Which makes sense probably because they probably do walk in, you know, softer or swampier terrain
Well,
than, say, one in California.
to me, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a skunk ape. It could just mean that because of their skeletal structure, that they will walk like that based on their terrain. It doesn't necessarily
Right.
mean it is a skunk ape, but it walks like a skunk ape because they have similar skeletal structure, so they end up walking the same way in the same terrain. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah. No,
But-
it makes sense. Like I said,
But who
I'm
knows?
going in my backyard and, you know, walking, and all of a sudden I hit a wet, you know, spot, and I change the way I walk completely.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Like
know,
when you're walking
I
on
think
ice.
everybody does.
When you walk on ice, you don't walk the same way you do on dry land, you know.
Right.
You fall on your ass if you did that. So is there anything else of note that you would like to bring up? Something that's because I think I hit all of the who did we just lose? I think I brought up all of the high points from what I can recall from your documentary.
I would say the only weird thing that we noticed is on some of the videos we have onshine, but it's down low. You can see it through the fence, almost like they would be laying down or kind of crouched down.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
You mean like 2 feet up or like really close to the ground, like they're literally laying on their
some
stomach?
of them, some of them look like they maybe a foot off the ground, and some of them look like they maybe 2 or 3 foot off the ground. You know?
Yeah. And where are you
It just
seeing
looks
this?
weird.
Where are you seeing this? Through the fence or something, or?
Yeah, through the cracks in the fence. I actually have video of it. If I could get the damn thing off of that server,
Yeah.
where that's, to me, just, you know, thinking as a person, it would either have to be squatting down or laying down or whatever to be that low.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I could be wrong, but that would concern me as well because that's about dog height, right?
Right.
Almost like they're trying to get your dogs to go see what's looking through the fence at them.
Maybe so. You might be right on that. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
like I said, once we found out exactly what was going on and watching the videos and stuff, I was like, oh, we're not going to take a chance here. I mean,
Right. What is it, Matt? Is that who's gone, Dee Dee? Did Matt just drop out? Somebody did.
It was Matt. He took some NyQuil. He can barely stay awake. He's got a cold.
There. Okay.
no.
Anyway, yeah, that sounds. Yeah, I think you need to keep your dogs, keep an eye on them because it's possible that they might become a bowel movement soon. If you-
Right. Yeah.
So
I mean, and look, my dog's the big dog. She's big. She's mixed. She's a German Shepherd mixed with a Great Pyrenees. She weighs about 150 pounds.
yeah.
But she's no match for these things. I
No.
mean,
I've heard of them just snapping a Brahma bull's neck like nothing. So
yeah, that's, you know, and that's some of the kind of stories that I heard. And I'm like, nah,
Yeah.
I like my dogs too much to, you know.
I've even heard. I believe they've literally ripped the head off of a horse. Just ripped it right off.
No, Speaking of dogs, one thing that I did hear on the recorder is it almost sounds like, and it's a whistle. It's 3 whistles, and that's how I call my dogs. But the dogs weren't outside, and it wasn't me outside, but it sounds like the exact same way I call my dogs.
So they were trying to call your dogs, and
it almost sounds like it them or somebody, because it's the exact same whistle that I use.
And this was after you started bringing the dogs in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I was wondering if that might have been something that started, was them trying to get the dogs to, like, see if the dogs were out there and they just didn't know where they were, or get them to come out or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, sounds like that's what they're trying to do. They want the dogs to go outside. Now, it's possible, because my theory is that these things have a mentality or a personality like humans. So sometimes you're going to, like you go one town to another. One town treats you like gold. The other one, they'd rather you get the heck out of their town, that kind of thing. I think, and then, I grew up in Boston. We had this place called the Combat Zone. Even the police didn't want to go in there, So you have those variations in personality. I think you have them in Bigfoots too. So it's possible either the Bigfoots like your dogs or they want to eat your dogs. It's going to be one of those two things. But it is possible that they like the dogs. I think that they see us with dogs as pets, and I think it intrigues them. And I think in some cases, if they watch humans enough with dogs, that they might kind of understand the connection between us and dogs, and maybe they look for the same thing themselves. I think that's a possibility.
And you see that was kind of my thinking too. That okay, I go outside, I play with my dogs. They see I'm not mean to my dogs. I don't beat my dogs. I don't holler at them. And I throw. There's a big long rope with knots tied in it. That's kind of like our toy. We throw it, and I'm kind of maybe wondering if that's not what the stick thing was about. Maybe they were trying to get the dogs to bite the stick. Who knows?
Could be. Yeah. I'd still be careful of the dogs, but I think your dogs would be dead already if they were intended to do something like that. But nothing says that won't change, or maybe you got 1 or 2 that are coming around, and then the third one says, "Hey, where are you guys going?" And it goes with him and goes, "Ooh, lunch." He has a whole different attitude towards the dogs. You know what I'm saying? So I'd still be careful of the dogs, but I think that it's more likely, as far as I'm concerned, that they were intrigued by the dogs. And that.
Well, I think it was entertainment.
Yeah.
I think that you think about it. I mean, if you spend all day in your room. I mean, at some point you got to get out and you got to do something. You got to look at something. You got to do something. I mean, that's why I think they weave all these sticks. And now, did you see that? Will be found by this coulee in that in front of that tree.
The turtles.
Well, the turtles and that kind of small little structure type thing.
That's where
he has it. I found a couple of them.
Yeah,
but
actually,
he only showed the bigger one.
Now that I got you, I wanted that because I was questioning whether that could have just been from heavy rains, flood level waters, and it just washed up against the tree. You think?
Well, yeah, and I know what you're talking about because living by the river and the swamp, it would be like a snag.
Right.
But the thing is, it's on the front side of the tree. So I understand what you're saying, where the coulee kind of makes it turn right there. I mean, all that stuff would be piled up in the front of the tree or in back of the tree, but this is in front of the tree.
So you're saying that
I don't really understand. And if you look at it, all this stuff is curved and weaved, almost like it was done intentionally. Like it doesn't look like a bulldozer just pushed it up against a tree.
Right. So, I mean, you've lived there. When the coulee gets full like that, there's always a flow. Is there a flow to it, or does it sit stagnant?
No, it's a flow because it's basically a drainage system.
And you know the direction, and what you're saying is that the way that they're piled up against a tree does not match what should be based on the flow.
Exactly. It should be, if that was the case, it should be in front of the tree or either behind the tree. But this is in front of the tree, or going in the direction of the water would be flowing, because that would be going south, so it pile up in front of the tree or in back. But this is in front of the tree, facing 90 degrees in a totally opposite direction.
Right.
So when I saw it, I was like, well, it kind of looks like a snag, but wait, the water's running south, so it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And that's when I took a picture of it and I showed it to Carrie. I said, man, what do you think about this? And, he's kind of like, well, from what it looks, and I'll send you all these pictures. And you'll see. You can make your own determination.
Sure.
It looks like it was intentionally made.
Was there any theory on what the purpose of it would have been? Like just maybe a place to chill out, lay down, something like that?
On where that tree is, the coulee kind of makes a little swing, kind of makes a little swing to the right.
Yeah.
And that tree is almost like out on a point. So if you wanted to deer hunt and you wanted to watch to the left, the front, and the right, that would be a perfect spot.
So kind of like a foxhole, or
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Huh.
Yeah. I mean, it is. That's, me and my wife went to take a walk down there one day, after we found the footprint, because I'm not going in the woods. Sorry, I don't do Bigfoot investigations. I guess I don't really have to, they're coming to me. But, I started noticing them, started seeing the turtle shells. Now, that's weird.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how that happened. I mean, unless the Bigfoot's literally sucking the turtle out of the end of the shell. Because I would think they'd just rip them open,
Well, that would be the normal thing you would do.
Right.
But it looks almost like they grabbed this thing by the neck and just yanked it off the shell. Because I grew up in a swamp. I've never seen a full turtle shell like that. Seen something busted up, and when a turtle molts, it molts piece by piece by piece by piece, because they can't lose the whole shell, because the shell is actually part of their body.
Right.
So
right.
I don't know what the hell. And now people say birds can do it, which they probably can, but the size of these turtles, I mean, it would be a damn pterodactyl that would be eating these, And I've never seen a pterodactyl flying around my house. So
well, and they're not going to pile them up in one spot. But
no.
What got me is I don't understand why the Bigfoot's doing it, because it does seem like it's from birds picking them clean, but because you can't do what you said. You can't grab them by the neck and jerk them out of the shell that cleanly. Mm-hmm. I think that you would just rip them apart, and then you'd have to dig more out and that kind of thing. Of course, I don't know. Right. I don't know. Maybe that's a valid way of like chefs getting turtles out of a shell. I don't know. But it just seems to me it wouldn't work.
I can tell you how, I don't eat it, but that's a big delicacy here. They can make turtle sauce piquant out of it.
Yeah.
And what they do is cut the neck off, crack the shell, and just cut all the meat out.
Right. But they have to open the shell. That's the thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mystery. Unless they're pulling it out and then whatever they're leaving behind, the birds are picking clean. I guess that could be too.
Yeah, because they look like they've been there. Some of them were fresh. Look like they've been done in the last couple of months. But some of them look like they've been there, for several months.
Yeah. Huh. All right.
So I don't know what's up with that.
I'm gonna open it up to the panel to see if anyone's got any questions and general conversation. Guys?
Okay.
Okay. Can I say something? Ask you something?
Sure.
Dee Dee, do you think that they might be just taunting your dogs? Because they're interested in the cameras as well. Like maybe that's sort of like a phase. Like to me, the marking on the fence, especially by the side where your dog is, are they peeping their heads over the top to just taunt them?
You know, that's a good possibility. I mean, it's either they're fascinated with the dogs, or like you said, they're taunting them or teasing them or whatever. You know, trying to get them to come. But you see that I don't understand the whole wood knock thing, because my dog was by the fence, and you have to listen to it with headphones. You hear a faint whistle, and then you hear my dog bark, and then you hear the loud bang, and she just walks off and just turns around and lays on the cement, but she stays looking at that one spot the whole time.
Yeah, they're probably just sitting there watching them, watching your dog.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you know, I can't really say, because all I've ever really seen is like shadows in movement, and it's fast. I mean, before you can blink your eyes and say, "Did I really see something?" It's gone. Because my lights in my backyard, they fall about right where the fence ends. So they stay right out of the range of that light, and I think they're that smart. You know, they know where that line is with that light, and I don't think they're going to come close to it. And then, like we were talking about the picture of the one, if that is one standing there, he's standing right in the shadow of that pole off of that outdoor kitchen that the light's hitting, and is casting a shadow up against the fence. So he knows where to get, where the light won't hit him, or the camera won't catch him.
Thank you, Carl. Y'all can.
Okay.
Hey, Carl, I got a question for you. You said that there is like fingerprints, or not fingerprints, but like nail prints where they were that were way up on the fence line.
On the fence itself, it's almost if you had long fingernails and you would scratch the fence, but start at the top and almost come down like a circular motion.
Okay, that sounds to me like maybe they're coming and jumping over the fence and using their hand to brace themselves when they come across, to get fully across the fence to keep from damaging.
Well, and that's that right about 2 foot from that spot is where I have one board completely broken off, probably about 1.5 feet, maybe 2 foot from the top, which I don't know how that got broke. And there's another board that's bent inward. I'll send Rick the pictures. And Carrie, when he was here, he said he thought he saw like a half of a footprint, but it was like the toes behind my shed. But he forgot to film it. I mean,
yeah, it sounds to me like maybe they're juveniles that are coming across your fence back there where the scratches are, and it possibly could have been a bigger one that came across with them, to see what they were getting into, and that's how your board got broke. A couple feet away from there, maybe the big one came across there, and
yeah, because I mean, one night, and it's this is before we even had a clue what was going on. Me and my wife were just watching TV, and we heard a loud noise, almost sounded like a shotgun going off. She's like, "What was that?" I was like, "I have no idea." I said, "Maybe it was the neighbor doing," and we've been hearing noises for years. Matter of fact, I forgot to tell Carrie about this. She would tell me when I'd come home at night sometimes that she swore somebody was walking in the attic. She heard footsteps like somebody was walking in the attic. So I would go up there, I'd look, You know, this is the middle of the summertime, 100-degree heat outside. You die if you was in that attic. So I'd go up and look, and it's like, well, there's nothing in there. You know, there's nothing in the attic. But she swore it sounded to her like somebody walking in the attic. Now, I don't think they were in the attic. They may have been on the roof, but I don't think there's no way they can get in the attic.
Right. Yeah, it sounds to me like, you know, it could be juveniles playing around on top of your roof. You know, a juvenile probably weighs 200 to 300 pounds, and that would definitely sound like it was in your attic.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just, you know, and she's told me this for years, you know, even before we found the footprint and all the, you know, the dog food incident. And
well, how long have you lived at that in that home?
We've been here for 18 years. This is the older subdivision, but in the last 18 years, they have tore down so many woods and built, you know, new subdivisions, you know, a 360 all around me. I mean, they're tearing down woods and building new subdivisions as fast as they can do it.
Right. Well, I watched the video that you were in with Carrie, and I looked at looked at Google Maps, you know, the satellite view of where you were at and everything, and even though they're building a lot of places around there, you still got quite a bit of woodline and areas they can hide in and run around in and not get seen.
Right. Well, hell, they can walk in that coulee. That coulee is probably 12 foot deep, about 20 foot wide. You know, I mean, Carrie's 6'4". I mean, he's a big man. He could walk in that thing, and you would never see him. So it's almost like a perfect highway.
Yeah, anything that's a waterway that would hold water that they can follow along, they tend to follow waterways. And I don't know why they do it. I guess it's like an expressway for them, you know, like our interstates are for us.
Right. I don't know. That seems, you know, that's one of the theories, you know, people have, that they just, you know, because that coulee runs all the way up to what they call the Chapelized Swamp, and runs all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. It's basically for drainage because, you know, we're below sea level, so you got to get the water out of here some kind of way. So they build these coulees. I mean, these things are 30 and 40 years old, so they kind of take on a life of their own, you know. So it's almost like you said, like a road. I mean,
so what about you, Al? You got any questions? You green, but I'm not hearing nothing.
Sorry about that. Any of the trees around your property, do they look like they've been tampered with in an unusual area?
No, I mean, not that we could tell. I mean, you know, we were trying to figure out what tree they hit on that wood knock video, and it has to be either my tree in my yard or directly behind my tree in the neighbor's yard. There's a crepe myrtle, and it has no leaves on it whatsoever, you know, because all the leaves have pretty much gone off the trees by now, but not any damage, like, you know, any snapped or broken limbs or anything like that we can see.
What about any claw marks higher up on the tree?
Higher up on the what?
The tree. Any claw marks higher up on the tree?
Well, I've never really seen any claw marks on the tree, but there was one interesting thing that happened. Had a I used to feed the squirrels. I put, a corn on the cob, and I drove a nail in the tree. It's a two-way nail, has, a point on both ends. So we bought some corn the other day, and I went to put it on the nail, and the nail is completely driven into the tree. And I have no idea how that happened, because somebody would have had to take a hammer and actually drive it into the tree. It didn't happen naturally.
Wow, that's interesting. The other thing I want to ask: does it look like they've been chewing any wood further up on the tree anywhere? It looked like they may be chewing the.
No, not that I can really see. I mean, now one day I made a video because somebody wanted to see, how far the distance was between my patio and my backyard and my neighbor's backyard, and I did see some broken wood in his backyard, which didn't look like it came from my tree or his tree. Looked like some kind of type of birch, which I have a river birch. That's what kind of tree I have in my backyard, and he has that tree in his yard, but it looks like a totally different piece of wood than either tree. So I didn't want to go, I didn't want to jump the fence and go back in his yard and just pick it up, because I don't want to get shot.
Yeah, I can understand. Here in Australia, we've had cases where yowies have been on. There's a guy in New South Wales and Blue Mountains where they've been known to tamper with the trees. They go up to the tree and actually chew the bark off the actual trees with their actual yowies.
Really? Well, another interesting thing is, we had squirrels. We had several squirrel nests in that tree in my backyard, and that's the reason I would feed the squirrels, put the corn in the cob. But we bought some a couple weeks ago, and I had to actually drive another nail because the other nail was sticking in the tree. There's no way I could have got it out. But there's no more squirrels in our tree. No, they haven't even touched the corn. And usually they go through a corn, one of those corn on the cobs in, half an hour.
Hungry
so
little squirrel.
I don't know where the squirrels went.
Probably eaten by the Sasquatch.
Well, we did find one dead squirrel in the yard, right in the same spot that we found the 2 possums and that big rat. And that was weird because there's these animals, they're all found all in the same spot, and there's absolutely no trauma to them, no bite marks, no puncture wounds, no blood. Like I told Carrie, it almost looks like they just died of heart attacks and just fell off the tree, but all in the same spot, right in the same area.
It sounds like they're drifting.
Are they wrapped up in anything like leaves or something, or?
No, they were just laying on the ground, and the second possum I actually found, he wasn't even stiff yet. So evidently I found him like 6:30 in the morning. I was going to let my dogs out of the outdoor kitchen, and I just noticed there's another dead possum. I just figured the dogs had killed it, and I didn't see it the night before, but I actually got a pair of, surgical gloves, picked him up and started looking at him like, man, there's not a mark on him. And I looked at my dogs, checked my dogs, and there's no scratches, bite marks. And you think, at some point a squirrel, a possum would fight back.
Yeah. And whenever you find them, they're always left in one place.
What's that? You kind of broke up.
Are they always left? Are they always left in one place?
Yeah. When you always the same.
Yeah, I think what he asks is, yes, they're always in the exact same place. And then the weird part about it is, you know, a dog, if he finds a dead animal, I mean, like I said, that's almost like a toy to a dog. They'll roll around in it and play with it. My wife was like, oh my God, you know, they're going to stink and we're going to have to bathe them. But I looked at them. I mean, you know, didn't have a mark on them, no trauma to them, no cuts, anything. And they didn't even smell, but they wouldn't even go around these possums and the squirrel and the rat. It's like they stayed away from that, the footprints and that piece of vine we found. Like they won't even go around it.
Interesting.
So have you? Do you still have that piece of vine?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just as an experiment, see if you can get your dogs to play fetch with it, or if they don't want nothing to do with it.
Well, I never really tried that. I mean, I could. I mean, tomorrow, you know, I could go out there and throw it and see what happens, you know, and because I looked at it the other day, just picked it up, looked at it, and that oil substance or that print, I'm gonna call it a handprint, is still on there.
Yeah,
and you can actually, where he stepped on the cement, where that big footprint was, you can actually still see, it's faint, but you can actually still see an outline on the cement.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if the dogs will play with it if you entice them to play with it, or if they still want to stay away from it.
See, I've got the stick right now. I'm looking at the stick, and yeah, it still has that oily print on it. Yeah, I'll try that tomorrow. I'll go out there and I'll throw it and see, you know, what they do.
Yeah. Amy, you have any questions?
Yeah, actually, I do have a couple. You said you live in a suburban neighborhood, right?
Yes, ma'am. Well, it's kind of on the outskirts of town.
Have there been in the time you've lived there been like a lot of posters put up for missing pets or anything like that? Are there disappearances of pets around there very often?
Yes, and one of the ladies, I told a story in the documentary, on the corner, she had like probably 20 feral cats that she was feeding, and now she's down to about 3. Now, we do have coyotes. I mean, we have coyotes around here because, you know, we hear them and we see them. One of them walked down my street, you know, like didn't have a fear in the world, just walked right down my street like nothing was wrong. So I don't know if they're getting to them or what's going on.
That many cats missing, you would have to be a heck of a pack, I'd think. And the other question I had was the possums and squirrels and so on and so forth that you found in the yard that didn't have marks on them. Did you feel of their bone structure to make sure nothing was broken on the inside?
No, I did not. I really didn't, because I at the time I assumed that the dogs had killed them, and I was really more worried about my dogs. And I had called the vet, and he told me not to worry about it because he said possums don't carry rabies.
Yeah,
and
I
they
just
do
wonder
have
if
their rabies
something
shot
could have
anyway.
Squeezed it or something, or broke their necks or something like that. I am concerned for your dogs, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, we pick them up every night. You know, I mean, I think they're good in the daytime because I don't think they come around in the daytime. I think it's more at night. So we just, 8:30 at night, we put them up.
We know I've read a lot of accounts where dogs that get really aggressive with them are the ones that they kill. So if yours are not really aggressive toward them, maybe that's why they've been okay when they have been out.
Right. And I don't know, I've heard just from, kind of the little research I did in this short period of time that they seem to tolerate female dogs more than male dogs. I don't know why that is. And both of my dogs are female.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yes.
Well, thank.
I don't. Have you ever watched Wood Booger Farm?
No.
I have.
Okay,
I have.
Me too.
It's a guy in Kentucky. He kind of has but he lives out where you think these things would be, out in the middle of nowhere in a holler, and he has some of the same things going on that I do, but it's just different. And he has a female dog, and he says it's almost like she runs into the woods like she's, going to see an old friend.
Yeah, that's Bailey, and the guy's name is
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I've heard of him. I just haven't followed him.
Yeah, he's got some interesting stuff going on. Like I said, I've talked to him several times, and we kind of compare notes, and it's almost the same type of activity, but different, if that even makes any sense.
Yeah.
But for some reason, there's something about that dog food that they want or they need. And, I thought maybe when all this was going on and we found out the footprint and I started talking to Carrie, I thought they might have a little one, that they might be feeding. And dog food has a lot of nutrients in it. I mean,
most
so
of it
I don't
has
know
added vitamins and minerals too. Maybe they need the minerals.
Maybe so, because there's a swamp right here a mile from my house, full of deer, full of rabbits. I don't think they're surviving off of dog food.
Well, something else that might be found in that dog food is antibiotics. That they use in the animals that they're slaughtering to make the dog food.
True.
Right. Yeah.
They might
never really thought about that.
They might sense, the medical attributes to it or something, Because, we found stuff years ago when we were still primitive beings that certain plants were good for healing and that kind of thing. They might have an innate ability to, find that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of the medicines that we take today are made from plants, and so we might need to pin one down and say, hey man, do you have a cure for cancer? Because they might.
Yeah. Hey Lane, do you have any questions? I'll take that as a no. What was it, Al? Go ahead.
I'm just wondering if the Sasquatch are trying to actually give him gifts, if they're making an attempt to get.
Well, a lot of people have brought that up. My knowledge is very, very, not too good on this subject because, like I said, this happened December 4th, and I'd heard about Bigfoots and, probably watched, some of the documentaries that you watch, but it was almost like I had to see one to believe it. And now it's almost like 360. I don't want to see it because what everybody tells me who's had an encounter with them, a bad encounter, is, you don't want to mess around with these things.
Yeah, I think he means the gifting would be the dead animals, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
right,
that's what I mean.
Right. Yeah, like they said, like they're trading with me, like they're taking dog food and they're giving me something in return.
But to be honest with you, I would think that the gifting of the dead animals is for the dogs, not for you.
Right.
That's a possibility.
But the weird thing about it is the dogs won't even go around it.
Yeah, well, they probably wouldn't know that. They probably don't know why they're not touching their gifts, But it sounds more like they're gifting to the dogs, not to you. To me, that's what it sounds like. Well,
I've said from day one, I don't think, people say, well, I think they're throwing rocks at your house to get to, to see if you're going to come out. But I don't think so. I think the big draw for them are the dogs, to me.
Yeah, it kind of sounds that way to me, too, to be honest with you. And
I don't know if they want to eat them or if they're just fascinated by them. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's more of they're fascinated at the relationship you have with your dogs. And they might even be trying to like experiment with a similar relationship themselves. You know, the dogs are afraid of them, they're apprehensive, so they're like any human would. If you were trying to approach an apprehensive dog, you would try to take it slow. It's kind of sounds like they're doing the same thing.
Well, let me ask. Can I ask y'all a question?
Sure.
Okay, I've heard that these things have a language, and from what people tell me, it's almost like a Native American, type of language. Now, when I hear them speak, or we hear them on a recorder, I could swear it's almost like they're speaking French, which is the native language. If you go back to the 1700s, 1800s here, they spoke French. They didn't speak English. So I'm wondering if they learned that from just listening and watching people, or if they're trying to mimic words that they heard in French. Because we had an interesting situation before we even knew what was going on around Thanksgiving. My neighbor went out of town. Of course, she called us and said, "Hey, look, I'm going to my mom's." We've been gone a couple of days. Well, me and my wife, we'd hear what we thought was laughing and talking. Then I'd go outside and I'd look, and all the lights were off in the patio. And this went on for like 3 days. I said, well, text Donna and see if anybody's staying at her house. So she texted her, and they were home. She said, no, we came home yesterday. And Rachel said, well, because we've been hearing talking and, laughing. We thought, one of their boys were there staying, maybe house sitting with the kids, but there was no lights on. And, it was just strange.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's possible. And if they have any kind of intelligence on the level that we're thinking, I mean, it's possible they can pick up words here and there, and maybe over the centuries, a language that was used a lot, they might have picked up quite a bit of it. Who knows?
Right. I don't know. Everybody, and what I learned is, everybody tells you right away, I'm not an expert. I'm just telling you what I've seen and witnessed and what other people have told me. So I don't think there's a manual or anybody has any real answers.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Not yet, anyway.
Right.
Dee Dee, any questions?
No, I just wanted to interject one more thing. And I'm sure Carl will recognize this. My dad lives in Covington, Louisiana, Carl, and that's on the North Shore of Lake Pontchartrain.
Oh, yeah.
They are, and what you all need to realize is that he's not talking about them building a couple of houses and knocking an acre or two down. They're building huge neighborhoods, like huge, where my dad lives now, his house is, fairly new. But now after Katrina and we've come back, sort of bounced back economically, they're continuing this chop down. They did it over the summer. They extended the street. It's got to be a mile long, in diameter where they're doing this. You know what I'm saying? Just the street itself. And then whatever they put in between, there's another side. And it's got to be, if you estimated how far these houses are on the other side of the neighborhood from one another, just to guess, you're looking at like a couple of hundred homes they're planning on building. And they're knocking the forest down to do this. It's incredible. And back in those woods, my brother did, some research because he had an encounter in Indiana. And that was his research area, and there were other wild animals. They had big cats. He found some big cat prints too. But now all that's like gone. There's more woods beyond, but it's a big chunk of woods. So it's kind of not surprising that they're coming out to these new neighborhoods, fairly new neighborhoods.
Yeah, because like I said before, when I moved here, give you an example, you had one way to come in the subdivision. You went down that main street, and you stopped. That was the wood line. You couldn't go any further. There wasn't. The road just completely stopped, and all that was wood. And they tore all that down and built a huge subdivision with probably 1,000 houses in it. And you know, they're doing that everywhere around me. You know, I can go in any direction, and we have sugarcane fields around me too. So. Yeah. I think they might. I know Dee Dee knows what sugarcane is. I mean, you know, that would be a perfect hiding spot. If you would go in the middle of a sugarcane field, it's like a natural canopy. I mean, the only way they could probably find you.
It is better cover. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, you know, and you can. I don't know if you've ever eaten sugarcane, Dee Dee, but my grandfather was a sugarcane farmer. I mean, it's good. It's like a natural candy.
It's delicious. I'm surprised they don't eat it, but it really is better cover than, say, a cornfield. You know,
oh yeah,
it's that thick.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, when it's in its prime, you're talking about something that's 20 foot high.
Yep.
So it would be, like I told Kerry when he came, I said, man, you know, that's before they cut the sugar cane down. We still had some patches that were still high. I said, if you sit here, you give me 10 minutes, I can disappear and you won't find me, maybe at night with a helicopter with a flare on it. Because I could hide that quick and you would never find me unless you maybe had a helicopter with some kind of, you know, infrared on it. To pick up heat signature.
Sensor. Right. It's like, it really is like a jungle, if you want to say it that way. It's more like jungle cover, you know, because supposedly they hide well in cornfields. I don't know about the other kind of fields, but if I was picturing sugarcane, you know, and I've seen it green and I've seen them when they're brown. I mean, when you're going up and down the highway in your area, that you could have passed like 20 trucks full of sugarcane in the spring and summer.
Yeah. I mean, that would be an ideal hiding spot. I mean, and you could basically, I mean, if I was stuck, if I ever got caught in a bad situation and I was stuck and I needed shelter, I would find a sugarcane field and you wouldn't even really have to bend the stalks over you because it does it naturally. You're almost like underneath a canopy, like a big oak tree.
Yeah, and you can stay there for a long time and eat off the sugarcane.
Exactly. So I mean, you know, in going back to that cooling, I mean, you got crawfish. I mean, they have small, not big alligators, but small alligators. You got turtles.
Frogs.
You got rabbits, frogs. Yeah, bullfrogs. I mean, so that's why I don't get the whole dog food situation. You know, I mean, like I said, there must be something in there that they like or they need. Especially if they have a little one.
Oh, and by the way, I have had turtle soup. And that was really good. It was pretty good.
I don't eat it.
It's not bad. It tastes like chicken.
What about you, Dee Dee?
Well,
Dee Dee, do you have any idea how they could get the turtle out without damaging the shell?
I really don't. I mean, but I've never cooked it. I only went to restaurants to eat it, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But that doesn't sound like they could just pull it right out. It doesn't sound like.
And Dee Dee, okay, you're from South Louisiana. Tell me, this isn't strange. I've lived here for 18 years. I have never seen a raccoon. Never. I'm not talking. I'm talking about live, dead in the street. Never seen a raccoon.
You think they're eating them?
I think they're eating them. I don't think they eat possums. I think they eat. I think they eat the raccoons. I think they eat the crawfish. I think they eat turtles.
Wait, do y'all have Nutra over there?
Have what?
Nutra.
Nutra.
Yes. So that's another food source for them. Because I would definitely eat a Nutra or a coon over a possum any day.
I actually do eat Nutra. I have eaten it.
Well, they say it tastes like chicken, but I'll take your word for it because I don't want to eat one.
Nutra's got a wild taste. Actually, tastes more like grass, but it's good. But that's incredible, though. You know, yeah, we have raccoons and possums and Nutra and you name it. You know, well, the coyotes are new. I don't know how you feel about it, but the coyotes were brought over here to control the Nutra population, and the Nutra population has just tripled anyway, and now the coyotes are reproducing. So.
Yeah. Like I told you before. I mean, we had one. You know, it was me, my wife, my son, and his girlfriend. We were standing in the garage because he works in West Texas. He was about to leave, and my wife just says, "Look at that weird looking dog." I started looking at it, started getting close. I said, "Rachel, that's not a dog. That's a coyote." I mean, he walked right by us like a show dog. Didn't have a fear in the world, like it was somebody's pet.
And they're predators, so they're eating people's cats and dogs and who knows what else. Yeah, we're going to have to go visit Carl, Rick, one day.
Yeah.
Go see his property. Rick's going to be living here soon.
Yeah.
In March.
Well, where? You said y'all moving to Louisiana?
Well, I live in Louisiana, but he's moving here. Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting married in March. So.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, you wouldn't be far from me.
Yeah, you know
we could go visit his property.
You know what's interesting is that you mentioned, because I've noticed around here, I've heard a Bigfoot screaming out here almost every night last year. I haven't heard it here since about May, the end of May. But every night, from about December to May, every single night I heard the thing screaming out here. And what I was making note of, and I said something to my sister about this when we were going up to Walmart, I said, I've never seen a damn raccoon around here. Not dead,
really,
alive, nothing. And, I come down from Ohio, and you'd go down the road, see, 2 or 3 of them lying dead in the side of the road, you see them walking around, run them over yourself. They're everywhere. And I just find it odd that there were no raccoons down here. But now that you mention that, I'm like, well, maybe that is the Bigfoot's eating the raccoons.
Well, where I grew up, which is about hour 15 minutes southeast of here, actually where there's a Chaffalaya swamp dumps into the Gulf. That's where I was born and raised. I lived there 35 years. We had a family of raccoons living in the tree, in our backyard, and we would feed them hot dog wings.
Yeah.
Where was that, Carl? Like Cocodrie or something?
No, I lived in Morgan City.
Okay, Morgan City. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you'd have told me I would have been having this going on, or if I would have seen one of these things, that would have been the place. I thought I would have swore I would have saw one down there.
Keep cutting down all these forests, like they say, we're encroaching on their territory.
And the interesting part about where I live is I'm about 10 foot high a sea level because I live on a ridge. It's actually a old earthquake fault. And I don't know if it has something to do with the elevation, because this was at one time in the 1800s. This was a part of a plantation, and this is what they tell me is this was the horse farm where they kept the horses. So I don't know if these things just came out the swamp or if they've been here all this time. Who knows? I mean, if they speak French or what, possibly could be speaking French, they had to be around people.
Yeah.
I believe that. I mean, I believe that story I told about the wild women of Hadzik, that lady, and it was retold by another guy in British Columbia. And this happened in British Columbia, where the the Squatch was scolding a human for shooting one of her kin, and she was speaking in his native tongue. And that was the early 1920s this happened.
Yeah, I actually think I'll watch that one.
So I think that the reason is that, for the Bigfoot being in the neighborhoods and stuff, I don't think it's as much the deforestation and taking up their habitat as it is. I honestly think that their numbers are growing, and I think that they are more, they're around humans more, and they're starting to learn more from humans. And I think they're almost naturally starting to try to integrate in a way with humans. They're trying to, cohabitate, I guess, with humans. And I think that's what it is. I think it's more of they're trying to blend with us now. That's what I think it is. And there's enough numbers now that it's becoming very evident.
Or they calling these dogs. They're calling these dogs. So, they had to hear him. They had to hear him calling his dog some kind of way, and they're mimicking him. And you've heard that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got to record it.
But it seems like they're apparently trying to learn our language, speak our language, starting to become familiar with our domesticated animals in more than just a culinary way.
Yeah.
They're hanging around the properties. They're watching us. They're playing with our doorknobs and our car doors, because they see us doing it. They're trying to figure out what is it we're doing. I think that's what it is. This is just it's probably going to become more and more of the same over time as more of them start to, become curious and I think that eventually they're going to become another member of the population. That might not be for hundreds of years, but to me it sounds like that's the direction it's going in because they have that intelligence. They're coming up in the world.
Well, it's sure, and you see it a lot. It's almost like they want to be around us. I mean, because, like I said, we had this huge swamp a mile from my house. They could be in there, but it's like almost like they don't want to be in there. They want to be around us.
Yeah, hold on just a second. Hey, Dadness, if you click on chat, you can type in here where we can see it. If you have some, hold on, I'll give you permission to talk in here so you can ask your questions. All right, Dadness, you should be able to talk in here now if you have a microphone.
I do.
There you go.
How are you?
All right, welcome.
Good.
What I was saying is it could be an old one, getting food and giving presents like Al said to your dogs.
Yeah, that's a very good possibility because they're doing something to them. I don't know if the whole infrasound thing. I really don't know that much about it because I'm really new to this subject. But I mean, it might be a situation like they might be picking berries or bringing them pieces of turtle or crawfish or who knows.
Y'all talking about Louisiana. I grew up in northern Louisiana and Arkansas, and I'm Native American, so my family is always talking about the men of the woods. Don't go after dark. Don't don't go play in the woods by yourself, basically, or the swamp.
Well,
that area you're in, you would probably know about the Janoskwa aspect then, right?
Cattle.
Yeah, Cattle Lake, however you pronounce it. Yeah.
So, Dadness, can I ask you a quick question? You part of the Houma Indians?
I am part of the new tribe that just got recognized by the government.
Oh, very nice. That's cool.
Now, we have about 30 minutes away. We have a tribe of Native Americans. It's Chitimacha.
Yeah.
that's pretty close to us. I mean, but other than that, I think you would have to go up, towards, where you're from, around that area to, find any other kind of. Well, they do have the Sabine, and then like Dee Dee said, the Homeless Indians. So I mean, they're around. So
Dadness, what language or did your people speak French?
My grandmother and my grandfather spoke French, and my grandmother spoke Cherokee, and my grandfather spoke Caddo and French mix. It was kind of hard to understand them sometimes.
Have you ever heard of the Bigfoot legends or whatever from your folks and them speaking language or anything?
Well, it's funny you should say that. It's because my grandmother always said that they knew what they were saying, and they just spoke normal tongue to understand it, whatever. But me personally, I am new to this. I've heard stories growing up, and I've been in the woods all my life. And here recently, I went to go see my grandfather's land in Louisiana, and I've heard like a scream. I guess you know how mountain lions. You hear mountain lions scream.
So it sounded like a woman being murdered in the woods.
Yeah, and but it was more deep. That it didn't sound like a cat. It sounded more deep, and I tell you, it made me stop and wonder if I really wanted to live back on my grandparents' land or not.
Yeah, I get that. But I've heard bobcats, and bobcats will scream, almost sounds like a woman, but like you said, it's not that loud, guttural, like that on that video on. I just labeled it Eye Shine. No, I think it's growl, rock, eye shine. You hear that rock, and then you hear the bam, rock hitting my house, and then you see the eye shine.
Well, like growing up, my grandfather, he lived out in the swamp area, and he told me a lot of times we go out crawdadding and catfishing and stuff. He says, you hear something splash the water, you'd let me know. And we get out of here. And he knew about them. They were around his place.
Yeah. Well, my grandfather, when I was young, we have a bunch of property kind of south of here that butts up to the Intracoastal Waterway, and he used to take me, just to shoot my little 410 when I was a kid, and he used to tell me, never whistle in the woods. And I was young.
Yeah.
I didn't really ask. I just assumed, well, you don't whistle in the woods because you don't want to scare whatever you're hunting off. But
well, you don't want to attract a Bigfoot either.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
well, they whistle too to each other. So my grandfather told me that. My grandmother's told me that. It's one of those things that you grow up with as being like me. I grew up out in the woods and the swamps, so we listened to our elders.
So did I, and we were told we had to be in for dark because the Rougarou was going to come get us.
I was just, Dee Dee, you took the words right out of my mouth. I've heard that, every kid in Louisiana, or especially South Louisiana, has heard about the Rougarou. I mean, that was the thing.
My grandpa says he saw him. And both of my grandparents are French, were French. And my grandfather was a fisherman, a commercial fisherman, and he's seen the Rougarou more than once.
Oh, yeah.
Swore it was real.
The first introduction I ever had to Bigfoot was, and Dee Dee will know this, it was on, when I was a kid, probably 5 or 6 years old, on WWL, Channel 4 in New Orleans, had a documentary about the Honey Island swamp monster.
Yep.
Oh, the Honey Island.
And Rick just went through Honey Island, the Honey Island swamp to come get me.
Yep.
Well, I don't think you want to be caught in any swamp at night, you know, just growing up around it and, you know.
My grandfather's house, you can walk 50 feet, and at the end of that 50 feet was nothing but swamp and a deck for his boat. And I tell you, at night, I don't go out, period.
It's creepy at night in the swamps. Man, it really is creepy.
I don't even, like 5:30, whenever the sun sets, I don't even go in my backyard anymore.
So, Dadness, are you said Caddo Lake. How far are you from Falk?
Right now I'm in Texas. I moved. I moved from Louisiana to Texas.
Where at in Texas?
I live in Perrin. Has one school. We don't even have a post office.
Whereabouts is that? Central?
No, it's Central Texas. It's about an hour and a half away from Fort Worth.
So south of Fort Worth?
Yeah.
So you're somewhere near Killeen, Fort Hood?
I am, well, close to it, yeah.
Yeah, I was stationed at Fort Hood for 3 years. Live at, Copper's Cove, south of Killeen.
You know where Possum Kingdom is?
No,
that's Big Lake. You can look it up. It's part of the Brazos River, and then it runs right through there. One of the biggest dams in Texas.
Yeah, I was down there in late 80s, early 90s. It might have changed a lot since then, But did you live near Falk?
Seem to be all over the place.
Did you live near Falk when you were up there?
No.
Caddo's a little too far south, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had a guy actually sent me some audio to examine for him like 8 years ago. Some splashing in the Caddo Lake. That was his research area, quote unquote. And to me, it sounded like a beaver slap. But is that what your grandfather was saying? If you hear something slap the water, tell me.
Well, it said like so you hear something splash or you feel something got thrown or whatever. That he just just get out of there. That's one of those things, because he told me one story that there were tree trunks basically been thrown at him. So that's one of the things that he wanted to get through us kids, not to mess around when you hear that stuff. You're getting too close.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe it was a thing that they do there, like they mimic a beaver slap or something like that.
Yeah, and you take your hand on top of the water, you slap, it sounds just like a beaver.
Yeah.
But you it's more of a like you take your fist and you can hear it slosh.
Right.
What I want to know, and Dee Dee will probably have a good idea of this. What do these things do during hurricanes? Do they do like horses and cows, just turn their butt to the wind and just lay down? Because, wind's not going to kill you. And if these things weigh, 300-400 pounds, you're not going to get blown away. It'll be miserable for 12 hours, but you could ride it out.
Well, I think they were more in the order of 800 to 1,000. But, Dee Dee, I'm going to get some coffee. Would you take over for a few minutes?
Of course. Yeah, it just makes me wonder too, but I guess that in any situation, even so, like with tornadoes and such, I'm really interested in exploring like more cave systems. And they say that they hiding there's places in the river bottoms, when of course, you're supposed to stay away from the river bottoms because the banks, because supposedly that's where they lurk around. And somebody had said they dig holes and go in there. You think that's true?
Oh, yeah.
When Gary was down here, that's kind of his theory too. He says he thinks he spends a lot of time underground. And Dee Dee, you know this. Me and you can go here with the soil we have in Louisiana, me and you could dig a hole big enough for me and you to get in maybe an hour because the ground is so soft.
So soft. Yeah, Dad, as you probably know that too, because they're so soft around that area
Yeah.
you were. You know, it's not just like people think like wet mud. You know, you really could almost do it with your hand.
I tell you what,
Right.
I built a lot of fences, a lot of T-posts. Louisiana is the best place to do it.
Yeah, I agree with that, Dadness. But you know,
Yeah.
Carl, you said, you know, it was a horse farm. Boy, I bet you everything you stick in the ground out there grows like a miracle, huh?
Oh,
That's got to
yeah.
be some fertile soil, because they had like cow pastures and stuff. And I don't know about you, Dennis, but if we all got the same sort of similar roots, our parents and grandparents and great grandparents, they grew their own food, you know. And I bet you that soil, it's just the Louisiana soil. I mean, there's nothing like it.
Well, the soil that we had around my grandpa's house, it was all black, you know.
Yeah.
We used to live so close to the swamp water. I mean, it was always wet, and we didn't have to really water that much. It was always wet.
And, you know, that's one thing I want to explain to people, too. You know, when I say I live right a mile away from the biggest swamp in the country, is, you know, I think of people's idea of a swamp is what they see on Swamp People, where they catch alligators, which that is true. That is part of the swamp. But y'all know, in this, you know, you get into the guts of these things, there's ridges, there's islands that built up from sand. You know, I mean, it's not all swamps. So, I mean, you do have high ground.
They got some neighborhoods just like yours. I mean, they're not far at all from the swamps, you know?
Yeah, I mean, some of them actually knock down cypress trees and fill it, you know, backfill it, and they'll build a subdivision, you know, so.
That's pretty interesting.
And there's actually,
I really think
in the
that
basin.
they're hiding in that mud. I think they digging holes somehow. Just the same as they would go in a cave. It gets so hot, you know, in this part of the country that, you know, they have to keep cool. I guess that mud keeps them cool.
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, because you know how brutal it is in the summertime here. If, you know, if you're living out in the woods, I mean, and without any air conditioner or, you know. I guess that's why they smell so bad.
You know what Campy is and clearance and all that?
Camp what?
Campy. It's a small town, and craft and all that. It's part of the Grand Bayou train. Go all the way down.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Montgomery, Ola, and all that. Well, that's where my tribe is from, is Natchitoches and all that. So that's where a lot of hunting out there. That's where we did a lot of hunting. So
a lot of woods in that area too.
And it's funny you should say about the raccoons. I never saw a raccoon when I go visit. Never.
Yeah, I think they eat them. I really do. I think they don't eat possums, because I see too many of them dead in the road, and you know, they basically give them to me. I think they would eat a possum. I mean, a raccoon over a possum any day.
He's a smart person.
A possum is, from what I hear, is really, really greasy, and I've eaten raccoon. Didn't know what I was eating, but it tastes like rabbit to me.
I've eaten everything that crawls, basically.
Well, I've never tried a possum.
I don't feel so bad for
and I don't
eating
think
meat
I'm gonna.
No. And turtle, what my grandma used to do, she cut the legs off, cut the head off, cut the tail off, get a little butcher knife, scrape out the insides, and leave the shell.
Yes, that's exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how they do it. So how are these turtles getting out of these shells? Because I mean, you can go watch the video, and I have pictures. They're completely intact.
Basically, what I think they're doing is using a stick. You know.
Why you don't think they could just grab them by the neck and just basically rip them out the shell?
Well, yeah, but you got to think about it. The neck, the vertebrae is connected to the shell too. So
right. So
anything connected to the outer skin is going to come right on out. So yeah, I see that.
So yeah, because people don't realize that the shell is actually part of their body, so they can't just walk out of the shell and grow a new shell. When a turtle molts, it's those little patterns, those little round.
It's like fingernails. It'll flake off.
Yes, it falls off one or two at a time. You can't lose the whole shell at one time. It's not like a crab, where he can just go out of his shell and he's going to make a new one.
But you right around the Alexander area and
you cut out there, Dadness. We only heard Alexander area.
I'm so used to not push talk. Around the Alexander area and Montgomery and all that, there's a national forest on either side of Highway 49, and so I'm thinking that's a good spot right there, because that's where I've heard them. They roam right through in there.
Well, Daphne, I know you know where this is at, and DD probably does too. You ever heard of the Castashi? What is it? How do they pronounce Castashi Forest?
Castashi, yeah.
Castashi. Okay, let me tell you what we found one time, and this was years ago. Me and one of my friends went up there because we had a fishing tournament, and we had to pull up on the bank because had to use the bathroom, and we found these turkey feathers, but they were stacked perfect. Like you had the tail feathers were all stacked in a complete, all the same size. Then you had the neck size feathers stacked on top of them, almost like a little pyramid. It got smaller and smaller as you went to the top, and it was almost like perfect. Like somebody would almost had to spend hours doing this out of turkey feathers.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I mean, who in their right mind, a person would spend that much time doing that? And I don't think there's any way. I mean, if a coyote or something like that grabs a turkey, it's going to be ugly. I mean, you're going to find.
I have heard of a similar story with chickens. They actually found chicken feathers stacked in the same way.
Really?
Hey, Dee Dee, I got to let Sadie out. I'll be right back.
I got a question for Dadness.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
I'm curious. Do the actual Bigfoot have their own language? Are they capable of actually speaking?
I think they do. Honestly, I mean, people say they would knock. They use rocks and the grunt, but I think they honestly they do have a vocalization language that they use with one another.
Have you
Yeah.
you heard of that guy Mike Patterson, the guy who's in Sasquatch, Ontario?
I've heard of him.
I have, Al.
He gets into conversations with him up there on a regular.
Is that the guy with the video? He goes, Mike.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Okay, yeah. I believe that's true. Honestly, from what I hear, I mean, when I was a child, that growing up with my elders, and that they said that they've talking to the tribe, growing up. That's all I've heard about. Is the wild men out in the woods or the swamps.
Some people say because they got no neck that they're that they're incapable of actually speaking.
No, I don't believe that. I mean, you look at a chimpanzee, they have vocalization, they talk with one another. It's the way they communicate. They may not talk like us, but they can force mimic like a parrot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, if you want to hear,
I believe that they understand what we're saying.
I've heard one
you might be right.
story of a guy who saved an injured deer, and the Sasquatch approached him and started talking to him after he saw it saving the deer.
Go ahead, Carl.
No, I was just getting back to the language thing. I mean, we've heard it. You can't understand exactly what they're saying, but from what we hear and what we hear in the recorder, it almost sounds like like I said before, French. So they may take on the native language, and the native language here was French, or
Caddo.
Yeah, I mean, so I think they adapt to their surroundings, and just like we would.
I would think it'd be interesting to take a languagist out and have them speak either Cherokee, Caddo, just depending on the region of the area, the native tongue, and see what happens. See what kind of activity they would get.
And that would be interesting.
Yeah, it really would. Well, getting back to the growl, if you want to hear what I hear, go to my YouTube channel and listen to the I think I labeled it Growl Rock Eye-Shine. And at the beginning of that video, you hear a big rock, and then you hear the rock bam, and then you start to see the eye shine. Now, was he doing that just to vocalize, or was he actually grunting when he threw that rock? 'Cause, well, it's a piece of cement and it weighs 4 pounds. So I don't think that would be very hard for them to do, because the strength these things have. I don't know if that was some kind of warning or a call or what that was, but just go take a listen to it.
Let me ask
What's
you
the
a quick
name
question.
of your YouTube site?
It's my name. It's Carl Gotro. And Didi can probably, well, I can spell it out for you. It's a French last name, so you'll probably have trouble spelling it, but it's Gautreux, and my name's Carl, Carl, spelled with a C. I've got several videos up there: eye shine, rocks being thrown, my dog sitting on the patio. You hear these clacks, and their heads just turning, looking, like, what was that? Where's this coming from? I think they're kind of confused.
Can you post a link in the chat area?
To what?
He can't. He can't because he's on. I'm actually talking to him via Hangouts.
He's on yours.
But Didi, can you grab that and post that in chat? Say the what was it you said? Rock, growl, eye shine.
Yeah, it's that's how it's labeled. It's just rock, growl, eye shine. It's right at the very beginning of the.
Okay, it's on your channel, huh, Carl?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh-oh,
I had
honey.
a question, though. I do have a question.
He's calling you ma'am. He's calling you ma'am.
That's the Southern way. Hey, that's the Southern way. And I mean, I hate to, I'm not, and purposely, panel, I'm not leaving y'all out on purpose. It's just there's a lot of similarities here. So while we're asking in these last, however many questions, I want to know if Carl and Dadness are familiar with the old show Cajun Justice. You remember that?
Onion.
Yes.
Onion.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, there was an episode, and this is interesting. I think I told you this, Rick or Ralph, Amy, or Al before, because we do a lot of discussing here. So we learn a lot from one another. But it was a few years back. I say a few, maybe 4 or 5 years. And there was an episode, and these were policemen in the Acadiana area where Carl lives, and that mostly that area, Cocodrie and this place, that place, and all. And one of the episodes, somebody saw the Rougarou, and there was a guy, and you could not get to these structures by on a road. You had to drive to a certain point and get on a boat to get to these houses, and they're on the water. Okay, some people call them camps, but some people live in these camps. So this guy's freaking out. He calls the police. They get, and it's a real police department, and they get in their boat and they come, chugging up to the dock. The guy is shaking, and I really believe this happened because I saw his video on his cell phone. Now this was a flip phone, but this thing, there was a creature that kept annoying him and his family and throwing things at the house and making these noises. And he said, I think it's the Rougarou. I'm telling you, it's the Rougarou. Well, it didn't look like what we think a Rougarou was. It looked like, a Bigfoot, and that reddish looking kind, with the reddish hair. And you can see it on film. It's walking through a lot of the swamp grass where the water's not deep. But if I can find that episode, I'll put that in chat too for y'all to see, because it was very interesting. And I felt so sorry for the man, because it's like, at least where you can have a road right next to you and a car in your driveway. If something happened, you'd have at least a chance to run in your car and start the engine and get out. This man would have had to get on the water to get out and then get to a car if it was really after him. But it seemed like it was just sort of antagonizing him and then passing through. But he had it on film.
Really?
I'll go get it and put it in the chat for y'all.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Yeah, because, there's several, you've got three things in Louisiana. You got the Rougarou, you got the Loup-garou, and then you have what they call a tatai. And there's really no description. It's just a monster. Your grandma used to tell you, y'all come in. It's time to come in. The Rougarou's going to get you.
Yeah.
Isn't that lizard thing that people talk about wandering around the...
That'd be the last one he said.
Yeah, I thought it might...
What, the tatai?
The tatai is a lizard.
Yeah, that was even one of the things they used to tell us when I was a kid, that, watch out for the tatais.
And growing up, when they told me that, I always thought it was the alligators.
Well, it could be. It could be. A lot of the people here, and, my grandmother spoke very, very little English. The English she did speak was broken, so it was mostly French that the old people spoke. Like Terry said, there's a big hole. If you go to any Sasquatch sightings map, there's a big hole over Mississippi and Louisiana. And he says, and I think so too, it's not that, people aren't seeing these things. It's just the type of people we are. We don't report it because, first of all, who do you call? Do you call the police? Do you call the game wardens? They're probably going to think you're crazy because to them, this thing doesn't exist unless they've actually seen one. So, who do you call?
Well, that's the thing, it was, for us, we never told anybody, we just never said anything until I found Rick on YouTube, and I'm like, hey, all right, my kind of people.
Thanks.
The old generation of people, they knew what it was. They knew it was just part of life. Like Terry said, the old people would see it and just, there's nothing to report. Hey, I saw that thing. I saw the Rougarou. You go on about your daily business.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is that last one you mentioned that's supposed to be a lizard, is it bipedal?
I can't tell you one way or the other.
Tell you more.
I actually have heard of a story of one of those supposedly attacking somebody's car in their drive.
Really? That's interesting.
Yep.
That was supposed to be in, I believe it was New Jersey or something like that. The Lizard Man. Is that right?
Come out of the swamps.
I think it was. Wasn't it New Jersey though? Like somewhere on the East Coast.
I'd have to check. I'd have to check this.
I believe you're right.
I can only talk for myself personally, but because I mean, you know what I'm going through. You know, this changes your whole way of thinking. I mean, it makes you come up with some weird thoughts. I mean, you know, it makes you wonder what else is real out there that we don't know about. I think we want to think that we're the smartest people and we know everything, but I think when it comes down to it, we really don't know that much.
Okay, I put those two things in chat. I put the one you were talking about, Carl. It's in chat, and I just found the Cajun Justice Rougarou thing. So, and it's not long. The Cajun Justice one's like 5 minutes and 46.
Yeah. Also, I as far as the unknown stuff, I always say that the government's conspiracy thing is that mainly they don't want the financial liability of knowing they've been around and people have been getting eaten and all that crap. But there's also another aspect that I don't really mention much, and I believe is a part of it at least, and that's because of religion. When you have so many people that believe in creationism, and now you have to say, well, there's this thing that's actually kind of, it's part human and you know, it's evolved, and now that's going to throw a big, that's going to create mayhem in the religious world.
Well, you know, it's a big Catholic, thing down here. You know, most of the people are Catholic. I grew up Catholic, went to Catholic school, and I get that. But okay, in the same point, if God made us, why wouldn't He have made these things too?
Well, let me speak on that since I'm the resident minister. The reason that all these cryptids are explained through the Book of Enoch. I mean, it tells of when the way they came about was fallen angels actually came down and had sex with other animals, had sex with animals, and had sex with human women. So anything that walks around on two legs has some type of human DNA, I would believe, in it through that way. And I know, Rick, we've had discussions on that before, but I mean, it's easily explained even through creationism.
Yeah, the problem is, I've been ordained for 20 years too there, by the way, Ralph. The problem is that the original texts do not describe things the way that the English versions do. So the original meanings of words are quite different. And there's a guy out there, I actually talked about him once, who has gone back and researched the original text, and doesn't go anything like what everyone seems to think it goes as far as angels and all that stuff. But I don't want to get into that whole thing. That's a religious conversation specifically. I'm just saying that when you start talking about other creatures evolving, now all of a sudden you're throwing evolutionism into the mix, and that's going to make a whole lot of people who are staunch creationism believers irate and upset. You know, it's going to create havoc in their world, because all of a sudden you're throwing their world upside down, which is what happens to anybody who sees a Bigfoot.
Yeah. I mean, it just, you know, from what I'm going through, I'm starting to question a lot of things. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. You know, I mean, I'll tell you this, I'm definitely more aware of my surroundings, which I believe that's a lost art.
It makes you a lot more open-minded.
Well, it didn't throw my world into a tailspin because, you know, whenever I saw the one that I did when I was 16, 16, it was, I mean, I wasn't in church and everything at that point in time, and I was like, oh, they are real. And then, you know, it kind of shook me up for a while and didn't want to do any hunting or anything like that. But, you know, later in life when I became, you know, got into church and became a minister and everything, it's never threw me for a loop. But, you know, I do believe that there is something about the Bigfoot that they have human DNA and they are part human in some way, you know, somehow.
Yeah, exactly. The problem is, you know, I'm talking the staunch Bible thumping creationism people, they're like, they don't want to hear that stuff. No, hell no. That's not what the Bible says. It's the word for word, what's in the Bible. No, that's just not the case. You know, but that's going to throw their world up into a complete chaos.
Well, somebody brought up a good point the other day about Noah and the ark. Okay? If he took 2 pair of animals on the ark, all right, take a dog. Every dog has wolf DNA in it. So did he take a poodle, a German Shepherd, a Dalmatian, a Rottweiler, or did he take a pair of wolves and every other dog is just an offshoot of the wolf?
Yeah, that's what it is. They know that everything came from wolves, their heritage, or the ancestors of wolves, probably, more likely.
Right. But I think this is you hear people talk about, and I don't know much. Like I said, this started December 4th. This woo, and these things, they're kind of interdimensional, and they can come. I don't believe that. I think these things are what they are, and they're flesh and blood creatures, just like me and you, and they have more human in them than anything else. Because why would you want to be around people when you could be in a swamp? You have to work harder now to eat, find food and, catch food. But there's got to be a human element in there somewhere for them to want to be this close to us.
Yeah, it's almost like seeking out your own kind of thing. Exactly. Yeah, I believe that. Go ahead, Ralph.
Well, you kind of have to look at it this way too. All animals look at everything the way they eat, and things like that. Living in a swamp is real hard to do, or in a deep woods situation like where I'm at in West Virginia. I mean, living in deep woods here, yeah, there's deer, but the deer move around quite a bit, and they tend to stay where there's grasses and stuff like that, in the fields and, close to people, because the vegetation is more lush for them there than in the deep woods. Because in the deep woods, all they have to survive on is limbs off trees, the shoots and buds and whatever wild fruit is out there. But when they get to the field, they can eat grass, and there's, grapes and blackberries and all that stuff that they can get into that greens up quick in the spring, so they can eat and regain their weight and rebuild their body through the summer all the way up into the fall. And it's a lot easier to be around people. All animals do it. It's a lot easier to be around people because the more lush vegetation is around people, because we make it, we cut trees down and grass grows. That's the way it works.
Right. Well, and the interesting thing too is where they're getting these rocks from. Then they're in this coulee, and around this coulee. There's no rocks in this subdivision like that. There's pieces of cement. I keep calling them rocks. It's pieces of cement. So that's intent. If you're getting a rock or a piece of cement and knowing that you want to throw it at this house or these dogs or whatever they're trying to do, I mean, that has to be planned out.
Well, yeah, their mental capacity is, you know, we've never ever, well, at least the people don't know that, you know, animals or anything of that nature. The Bigfoot, you know, you don't know what their mental capacity is.
Right.
They have a language, so they have a mental capacity that's somewhat on the same level as a human being. So they can work out problems, and they can work out issues within their society or whatever you want to call it. And you know, they have a certain set of ways that they've done things over the millennia, and that's the way that I mean, they're soon.
You broke off at the end there, Ralph.
Yeah, what I was saying is sooner or later they're going to evolve.
Sure, yeah, and they have an example to go by. Like I was saying in the other show, you know, we took probably maybe thousands of years longer to become modernized, if you will, than a Bigfoot's going to, because we didn't have an example to go by. They do. So they're going to learn from us, which is going to accelerate their ability to become a member of our society, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Go ahead, Ralph.
Well, what I was going to say is, look at the way that they did Carl. They came in and grabbed 50 pounds of dog food in 3 days' time. It's a simple latch on what he's putting his dog food in. It's a simple latch. All you got to do is reach underneath there and grab it, and it comes loose. And I mean, it's you know, and if it's juveniles, maybe the big alpha and, you know, the big alpha male and the alpha female are eating most of the food, and these juveniles are coming here to supplement their diet.
You know what's interesting, though? Did they watch him open it, or did they figure it out themselves?
Well, it's a possibility. I mean, they you know, like I said, it depends upon their ability of their brain to figure out simple problems. That's a simple latch. It should be fairly easy. If one of them saw him reach underneath of it and pull it up, maybe they reach underneath there and got lucky the first time and it came.
What do you think, Carl?
Yeah. I mean, they either mimicked what I did, or, like he said, they just happen to hit the latch. Because, I mean, you do have to click the little latch and lift it up, but I mean, it's really not that difficult to do if you know. But I've never found a handprint on that container.
Not even the oil. You know what? Take some talcum powder and sprinkle it over where that latch is, and see if because it should stick to the oil if there's oil there from their hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I could try that.
Also, look around go to where you would stand to unlatch it, and just look around you and see if there's a spot where a juvenile could have been laying or sitting there hiding from you, but it could see what you were doing, because you know, it's probably going to spook you, but they might have been 2 feet away from you the whole time, sitting like behind something where they could actually watch you, and you just didn't know they were there.
Right. And to me, that's the scariest part of all. Like I told you before, how many times have I been in that backyard, you know, at night, just, you know, doing anything, and, you know, one could have been, like you said, 2 foot from me or 3 foot from me, and I wouldn't even known it. And he could have just grabbed me and, I don't know, drove me in the ground head first to my waist. I mean,
yeah.
If he wanted to. I mean, now, you know, some of them are more violent than others. I mean, I might just be lucky and have, you know, a group of them that aren't violent.
Yeah. I don't know what your yard looks like, but I'd look around and see if there's any place for somebody, say, you know, a 5 foot tall, like say a 12, 13-year-old kid that would be able to hide there, because that's where a juvenile would be able to hide on your property. And then then I would keep an eye on those spots from then on, because they might be there any time of the day or night watching you, you know.
Well, I have several blind corners because I have an outdoor kitchen in my backyard. I have a shed. Then, you know, you've got the corners on that's another interesting thing. If you see it on the documentary, the night I found, we had changed those bulbs in the corner of my house on a Saturday. The night I found that footprint, it was already 5:30. It was dark. I just happened to look that way, and those two lights were out.
So I think Carrie asked you if you checked to see if they were loose or if they were blown. Did you ever do that?
No, I never did. I don't want to change him because he told me, you know, from the start, don't do anything different. Don't change your routine, because they notice little things like that, and who knows what'll set them off, you know?
Yeah, I'd go and check and see if they're loose, though. Because if they're loose, that means that they were watching you put them in, and they knew how to loosen them, and they probably loosened them intentionally. Be very interesting to find out if they're just loose.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Ralph.
Well, Carl, here's a question for you. What time of day do you typically feed your dogs out in your yard?
It's usually after I get home from work, about 5:30, 6 o'clock, sometime in that area. But we really start, I guess the activity starts up probably about 9:30, 10 o'clock. It can be as early as that. And, you know, like I said, I have you know, some videos. I start maybe at 10 o'clock, and it goes all the way to dawn. And you hear stuff on that video recorder pretty much all night long. I want to know what that bird whistle is. Because that's strange. And the only way I can explain it is it sounds like a metallic bird whistle.
So let me ask you this.
Sounds like
you say 9:30, 10 o'clock. You're relating it to a time on the clock. Is it really, if you think about it, is it more related to where the sun's position is?
Yeah, because I think so. Because, you know, your days are shorter in the wintertime, and, you know, by the time I get home, it's dark. So who knows? They could be behind that fence watching me, or they could be behind the shed watching me. I don't know. You know, I try to feed my dogs, you know, get out of there, let them eat, and then we'll, you know, let them in after they use the bathroom.
But
get them out of there.
As far as the activity starting, have you noticed that it starts when the sun goes down, or is it literally 9 to 10 o'clock every night? Even
yeah, it's usually about, like I said, about 9:30, 10 o'clock.
And that's even in the wintertime when the sun's already down for hours.
Yes.
That's interesting. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, this is just what I believe. I don't think they may come out, but I don't think they come into the subdivision during the daytime. Because there's too much risk. There's too many cars moving around, people going to work, you know, people going to the grocery store. It quiets down about 9:30. You know, pretty much everybody's home. They've been to the store, whatever they got to do, and, you know, everybody's settled in for the night.
So then they're watching the neighborhood. They're actually waiting for everyone to settle down.
Maybe so. You might be right on that. I mean,
it's interesting. Go ahead, Ralph.
Well, the reason I asked that question of you, Carl, was because, you know, if you get home at 5:30 in the afternoon, in the evening, and feed your dogs, they probably are over there in that coulee or in that drainage or somewhere in those trees over there, sitting over there watching you feed the dogs. And that's how they may have figured out how to open the, you know, where the dog food's at, and they're able to know that you take your dogs in and just sitting there watching everybody go to bed, go in the house and turn the lights off.
Right. And, I didn't even think about this. We turn all the lights off inside, but, a lot of times we'll watch TV and, you can't really see in the window because we have curtains, but you can see that glow from the TV because I've seen it on the recorder, and I've actually seen when we turn the TV off. So they actually know or can tell or see when we turn the TV off just by the glow it puts off.
Right.
So they got me patterned. And that's the scary thing about it.
Yeah. You'll have to, you have my email?
Yeah, I think so. What is it? The title of the show at gmail.com?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, send me those pictures and stuff you were talking about so I could have a look at that. And also, I'd be interested to hear what happens when you throw that stick for the dog.
Okay.
And if you notice any hiding areas, and you might want to check those hiding areas and see if it looks like something has been, because if something's been squatting, say in a specific nook, you're probably going to see the soil's been disturbed where it's been there quite frequently and that kind of thing.
Well, in my neighbor's backyard on the other side of the fence, we did find some impressions. Like something it wasn't really a footprint, but it was more like impressions, like something had been, stamping down the grass. Yeah. Well, in this one section where my dog looks all the time.
Well, if something is especially something of that kind of weight is frequenting an area, eventually it's going to start killing off the grass in that spot. You're going to start to see it thinning out. You're going to see evidence of that area being worn down, wear pattern.
Right.
Kind of. So I would look for that in the little nooks and crannies around your yard and see if something's been regularly watching you, like 2 feet away from you, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, they could be behind that shed or, because I don't know when's the last time I even looked behind that shed. It's probably when Kerry was here and he told me he saw what he thought was a half of a footprint, a couple of toes in the mud, but we had so much other stuff he forgot to film it.
Right.
Where that board's broken behind the shed. So maybe I need to go look and, see exactly what I can find.
See, that would be a great place for a recorder.
Yeah.
Too, a sound recorder near that shed.
Now, do you have a spot in that shed like this task cam that I told you that you should pick up? It's an expensive piece of equipment, but it also has mic inputs, so you could actually put the task cam, say, inside the shed, and then drill a hole or something to where you can put an inexpensive microphone either in like the wall through a little hole kind of thing, or feed the wire through and put it outside or whatever, so that if they tried to rip it down, they're not going to destroy your piece of equipment, and do it that way. And it will, well, the microphone, as far as getting infrasound, the microphone itself has to be capable of that. And the microphones that are on this thing can pick that up. And if you get an expensive microphone, it would be able to do the same thing.
Now, what does infrasound sound like? Because we did pick up some strange kind of humming or buzzing noise one night on the recorder, and I thought it was just maybe the recorder doing it.
Well, what I've heard is that some recorders, if they have a defective microphone, they'll make a sound. It almost sounds like some kind of weird interference, and that's because the microphone's trying to pick it up, but it's really beyond its capabilities. But it will cause almost like a rattling sound, like what you're describing, a buzzing. I've heard people talk about that they've had recorders that could pick up infrasound that way. But you're literally not hearing the infrasound. What it is it's recording something in the microphone that is rattling based on the infrasound. So the infrasound itself you're not hearing. You're hearing something rattling because of the infrasound. But this thing here will pick up all the way down to 5 hertz. It will actually pick up the infrasound, which you can't hear. You know, to say what does it sound like, you don't know, because we are incapable of hearing to that low of a frequency. But when you record it, you can then look at it in a spectrum analyzer on the computer, and you'll see that there's a sound in the infrasound range. And then you can do a frequency shift and bring it up into the audible range. Of course, then all you're going to hear is it's going to sound like kind of that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
But just being able to see it and know it's there. Like if you're out there and you get a weird feeling, you get nauseous, you get paranoid, something like that, and you happen to have recorded it and you pull it up on the spectrum analyzer and you see, oh, at that time when I felt that way, there was infrasound happening. That just kind of helps you figure out what happened.
Right.
Or when your dogs are acting funny, you know, if you picking up infrasound, you know that's what it is, that they're hitting them with infrasound.
Right.
You know, make them paranoid or whatever. So it's helpful in that way. That's why I got this one, so that at least it's detectable, you know, reliably detectable. So, but anyway, does anyone have any more questions? We've been running for quite a while here. I want to go ahead and close out the recording of the show and get it uploaded.
I was just curious if we can, he's willing to try putting out some sweets or whatever, see what that does.
Well, that's potentially dangerous because they might get mad when you stop putting them out.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But instead of, what I would say is you can do it as an experiment, but don't do it as a gifting kind of thing. Like some people, I'll go out to my gifting tree. That's when they expect it all the time. But like be out in the yard and just accidentally drop stuff in strategic locations and see what happens. Because then they're not expecting it. Then they're thinking, oh, he dropped something, you know, and they're going to go and get it.
Like pretend you don't know it fell.
Exactly.
Have maybe something else in your hand and just pretend you don't know it fell.
Right. And if they're watching you, that'll tell you if they're watching you too. Because you'll say, oh, the only way they would have found this is if A, they were scouring the yard looking for something, or B, they were watching you from the trees or something and they saw it happen. Or they smell it, I guess, if it's something that they could smell, you know.
Right.
But it gives you more data on their behavior and, you know, what they're doing and that kind of thing.
Right.
You could try different types of things they could smell, things they couldn't smell, things they'd have to watch you drop, you know, that kind of thing. Just different experiments. Different times of the day, you know, that kind of thing. But it would be interesting.
Right.
Yeah, email me that stuff. And, let me know what happened with the stick and anything else, you know, like your nooks and crannies. If you discovered, oh my God, this grass was completely dead because something's been there every day for years or something, you know, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I can just look over the fence and, you know, basically see that. I don't even have to go in my neighbor's yard.
No, I'm talking about in your yard.
Oh, in my yard?
Yeah.
Okay, because
like I said, you could have
the
had
smashed down
Go ahead.
Grass impressions where we found was like on my neighbor's side of the yard. It wasn't on my side of the yard. It was on the neighbor's side. Almost like something had been just standing there, you know, I guess watching.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm saying look in your yard, especially near like where the dog food thing is, or anything line of sight from there. Like that could be someplace someone could hide, and see if you can see if it looks like it's been wore down from something being there repeatedly. That would be interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Okay, does anyone else have any more questions for Carl?
I don't have any more questions, but I just wanted to say thank you, Carl. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, and also invite you and Dadness to our campfires whenever you would like to join in. We always pop in there, and then especially after Rick shows, we'll go in there and hang out. And I learn something every time I join these guys, so we'd love to have y'all. Yeah, we have people showing up in Campfire pretty much throughout the day, just varying times and stuff, just to drop in and talk about. In Campfire, it's
whatever. You can talk about whatever recipes or whatever, but it's there for all of our viewers, our community that we're trying to build, to come in and just shoot the bull and that kind of thing. So
okay,
you'll have to get yourself a Discord account so you can hop in there with us, Carl. I can actually send you the information. Once you email me, I'll email you back how to do that. And then
it's not hard.
Yeah. So anybody else got any more questions? Nope. All right. Well, Carl, thanks again for joining us, and it's been interesting and enjoyable conversation with you. And I look forward to hearing what else is be going on around there in the near future.
Okay. I'll thank you for having me, and I'll keep you posted and get those pictures to you, and try some of those things you're talking about and see what happens.
All right, buddy. All right, folks. Until next time, y'all take it easy.